Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast. We are going to be doing a reaction stream to the Balance preview, which is starting in about 50 seconds. For now, you will just see the stream, or their stream on screen, and you will see our beautiful, wonderful faces in time.
In time.
In time, yes. While we're trying to work out where our fourth member is. Well, we know where they are, technically.
We know exactly where they are.
That just might be a bit late. Which, you know, isn't massively unusual, but that's it's okay. It's gonna be fine. People give their time, and I appreciate it. Okay.
This is so fun.
Are you excited? Like, quick, first, hopes and dreams. What are you hoping for in 19 seconds?
Oh, weapon changes. Elementalist staff weapon changes.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Weapon changes would be nice. They did say a long time ago, that they were going to work on making weapons that aren't used very often better. So, yeah, let's hope they start doing it. Or they also said they're going to start making all skills that aren't used at all better.
Okay.
Yes.
Like it.
Oh, maybe.
There we go. It's the...
I had to tab out Rook's stream. I don't know if she
Guild
sees.
Wars 2 live balance preview stream for
I want to
the
watch that
February
because I'm
14th
so
Balance Patch.
thoroughly entamed.
I am Roy Marks, and I'm joined today by
she's reading. She's
Skills
reading.
and Balance team lead Cal CMC Cohen. Cal, how you doing today? I'm looking at nothing.
Great. Yeah, as some people may notice, we're doing this from home again. Roy snuck in with the suit, and about 10 minutes ago, we started setting up the stream, and I noticed Roy's in a suit, so he did not give me time to similarly suit up, but that may be something that we will do in the future. So we're here to talk about some new balance changes that are coming February 14th. As usual, the notes will be following on the forums after the stream ends. And also, as usual, there will be a couple things that we go over on the stream that are slightly different
Always
or not
gotta stay
included on the
stylish.
notes that are posted, just due to the timeline into how we send notes off to get editing and localized before the stream, and then we make a few other additional adjustments between that time and this time.
Yeah.
So what are we going to kick it off with, Roy?
Well,
Are we going to show the intro slide?
before we forget, we'll just mention, of course, as always, to make sure to head over to the forum.
I literally thought
posting
we're talking about having a
total
meeting
forum,
and not
post
being
there
able to do
after the stream ends. And,
We're live right now, Rook, watching the show. Just FYI.
Jebro, what in the what?
We're listening. Well, everyone else got here and is here now, and they've been here for like 20 minutes. I'm just saying, the reading is hard.
We're like, does Rook know?
Reading
Roy
is
was
hard.
really excited to.
Even
note
I
that
got
the
hair
balance
on
update
time.
is happening on Valentine's Day.
We're just
there it is,
jogging.
Happy Valentine's
Oh, they're
Day.
doing Balance Patch on Valentine's Day. There
we
you go.
didn't have a teaser image, unfortunately.
I'm going
Oh, the
to...
release
But for
of the
anyone who's
patch.
tuning into the stream a little
I'm
early,
going to sort out
we'll
cams
show
out and stuff.
a little bit
There we
of
go.
maybe a teaser image or two, and we'll not two, but we'll
There's
show it
one
up.
teaser.
Show it
No,
up there again
nothing
on-
like the love
on
of
screen.
balance.
Anything to note here, Cal?
We'll talk about it later. I mean, it seems pretty obvious. The special action key that is given to you in the PvP arena that allows you to enter the defeated state immediately is now being applied game-wide.
Okay,
So
great.
we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Awesome. So then,
Yeah,
Why
there's
not?
a couple of secrets in this image that some people may have already noticed or will notice by the time we actually talk about this. We'll obviously be talking about some of these things later.
I'm
in the
confused by
stream.
this image.
at least two.
So am I. Why is the armor
Just
so
to dive
bad?
in. But yes,
Like,
we
come
will
on,
dive
man.
into it.
So are your,
And in
so are
absolutely
your
no
wardrobe.
specific order, we'll just start off with Elementalist. Why not?
Ooh!
Oh,
Cantrip
yeah,
updates.
everyone loves Elementalist. So what do we got for Ellie going on? We got some updates to the staff kit. Try to
I had
make
such
the
a moment
support
seeing Roy
aspects of that
there.
a little bit stronger.
I was like, why
A
is
couple
Roy on
updates
the
to
stream?
some
And then
of
I
the
went, oh my
weaker
gosh,
cantrips
Roy
especially,
works for Arena
and-
Net now.
Maybe most importantly to a good amount of people watching the stream right now, we will be adjusting Scepter and also a little bit of Catalyst adjustments in competitive modes. And obviously it needs buffs, not nerfs.
What
We
are you
might have a few
talking
nerfs as
about?
well.
Dragon's
Alright.
Tooth does
Shall
not
we
need
dive
a
into it?
We
fucking
can dive into it.
throw.
So we'll show this off on stream in a moment, but yeah, we're
Dragon's Tooth
doing
does
a little
not
bit of a
need a
rework,
buff.
or not exactly a rework, but some
Can't hear you,
buffs
Boots.
there for staff skills on Elementalist. Mostly
The whole
aimed
time?
at trying to
you've been
increase
muted out
its
most of the
viability as a support option. for
Number
staff.
one, I was just saying that Cal has done nothing but troll the entire time
There's
he's been
some
talking so far.
Cool stuff
Oh,
Oh,
in
okay,
here.
sorry.
Nice
Good.
quality of,
So he's been
quality of life
sarcastic?
upgrade with Water
Yeah.
Blast.
Okay,
the
good.
Water auto attack. You can now throw it at allies. This is the skill that some people may be
Number
familiar
two,
with. You shoot a projectile at enemy, or
do
maybe
you
throw it into the
see?
ground because
Is
that's
it
actually a
possible
lot
the
more
blade
efficient
sword,
to
Soren's
heal nearby
sword,
allies, but now
was
you'll be able
dyed?
to throw that at an ally and it will explode.
was it a different
So
color,
you
the
no longer have
hilt,
to do that kind of
than usual?
Balance.
exciting
I know, but
gameplay
still.
of throwing a projectile into the ground. Got a couple of a little bit of healing buffs in there on the competitive side. Geyser, make that a little bit more exciting. Frozen Ground, not going to give Frost Aura in an area. Obviously, Staff's not going to have the Transmute available. That's dagger
Very
offhand only.
interesting.
But you'll still be able to apply Frost Aura, get some Aura triggers, get a little bit more damage reduction in there.
Yeah, and we
And-
can as
ahead.
you continue to go over there, I'll dive into the game so we can check that out. Yeah.
My prediction
build
of
you there.
Elementalist staff changes is correct.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
I'm
it.
very excited.
Yep.
But yeah, we got the elemental staff changes here.
The
So
blind
you
is
can see
weird.
Blindness there on
Yeah.
Flame Burst. Not exactly the most exciting part of that though, but I think these notes maybe.
Geyser, yep, you missed the Frost Aura. Good job.
You can just blast it, Might be a little bit late, but that's okay.
You can blast. You also missed the blast.
Oh my goodness, Roy.
This is a great
fantastic demonstration.
showcase.
One thing you might want to hover here is the Healing Rain tooltip is going to show that we added, some people may have seen this in the notes, but now Healing Rain is going to heal allies for each condition removed. And so
Oh, that's
this number
nice.
is going to be a little bit different in PvE
I think
as well.
it always should have been that,
um,
and I'm excited
Each condition
that it
removed
is now.
from an ally will
that.
also give some amount of healing.
Absolutely. We can check out the gust indicator here. Very nice, looking very
Some
good.
people may recognize that from Monsoon, but it has a tornado air styled effect. So we
I think that'll
borrowed
feel a
it
lot better.
and put it onto Gust.
It's always been some.
Make the ground targeting,
Sure,
make it a little bit
targeting.
more
It's fine.
skill based. Sometimes Gust will just miss and it feels bad. So giving a little bit more space for players to aim their Gust the way they want and get rewarded.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
John.
But I think that probably is good for the staff stuff.
Did you
Um,
show up Magnetic Aura Transmute?
I
I
did.
think you did. Yeah.
I
So
did.
that noticeably gives stability now instead of protection. Kind of a cool place to add stability to Ellie.
I would have liked a
because
meteor shower
it's
change.
a case
but-
where we didn't really want to add it to Tempest specifically as like now Tempest you can play dagger, you can play dagger focus, dagger,
You can now
still
see our
access to
faces.
staff. That's like already a
Yay!
pretty solid build.
Oh,
We wanted
uh-oh.
to solidify staff
I should've-
as the place that you get stability. So obviously Tempest can get more mag auras
Should've
from
put a
traits,
mask
can get more
on.
mag auras from shouts.
That's good though.
So
I
you have
like.
potentially a lot of
So is
transmutes
it?
there, similarly
What I want to know
Alice,
is it
you can get
AOE
more
stability or is it
mag
just
auras from the-
stability for
It's
themselves?
AOE
Master trait as
stability.
well. So potential for, like,
Because it would give
multiple
AOE
transmutes in a short
protection.
period.
And now it's
But you will have to
600. Oh,
play
wait, no,
staff,
that's
and so that's going
tasty.
to kind of
Yeah, you
create
could
or
give
really
probably. I'm
enable
gonna guess
staff
at least
to do
50%
that
uptime of
really
stability to your
powerful support
friends.
weapon because it gives stability to nearby allies.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
But moving forward
Yeah.
from
I
the
don't know
staff
how long it
changes,
lasts.
we've got some kind of just general changes to various skills on Elementalist. So something I actually had on my bar at the start of that was Burning Speed, which will now stop moving if it hits a target, so you're not going to go past them.
I don't know if I like that.
Make that skill a little bit easier to use, a little bit better to use, feel a little better. Same thing with Earth and Rush.
Yeah, I don't like that
And then
either.
we've
I
got
think people are
some
gonna not like
cantrip
that.
updates as
Yeah,
well.
that's not good.
Yeah, once upon a time,
Wait,
I'll
what
just
did
go back
they
to
do?
touch on Burning Speed.
The
Real
burning
quick.
speed
Once
stops at
upon
the
a time,
enemy
some
no
people
matter
might
what
remember
now,
that you
instead of
could
going past
angle your
them.
camera
So if
down
you want to
to
create
kind
the
of
entire
shorten
road, you
movement skills.
can't.
And so
Why?
you
Why
be
would
able
you
to
do that?
Earthquake someone that's right next to you, and then burning speed with a
That's
reduced
bad.
range to still guarantee that hit.
I
Well, it's a
understand.
targeted
That
enemy,
functionality
so
was
it's if it's
obviously
if it
removed,
once it reaches the
charged at
targeted
this point.
enemy, you could
So
not
now
target the
you'll just
enemy
be
if
able
you wanted to.
target your enemy.
So is it
and
technically a
burning speed
charge
will
now
not
then?
just
Is that
fly
on its
through.
own?
No,
You'll
it's
still
always
have
been a
access to that old
charge.
functionality.
We'll go
Is it
into
a
it
charge?
later.
Was
Burning
it a
speed will
charge
just
before?
continue to
I don't think so,
go
but
its normal
think so.
distance, but in
I
the
think it
event
was.
that you
I think
just want to stop at your nearby target, then just
I
have
think
an
it's
out- have an
okay,
enemy
'cause
targeted, and that's how it's gonna work.
if you just untarget your target,
Um,
you'll go through like
As
you
we
used
mentioned,
to.
Yeah.
we have a few
That's what he was
updates
just
to
saying, I
some of
think.
the,
It's
less
mostly just
powerful
that you don't like
cantrips. For
overshoot if you
example,
wanted to
Cleansing
try and
Fire, there's a
be
skill that
like
gives you a
right
ton of
there,
play.
but you can
Yeah,
So
but-
it's now
untarget
going
and
to give
go.
you might stacks for each
Yeah, okay,
condition
sure.
that you remove.
Fine.
So kind
It
of
gives you an
interesting
option.
place
I think it's
to
just an additional
just
thing.
power
right?
up the skill a little bit, tie into a little bit of
It's
that
not an additional thing.
style
It's like
thing that some of the cantrips.
As in,
do,
like,
I guess it
you
takes
can't
away
really-
the
does give
finesse.
boons as
A
well,
weird
and we
gameplay
added a
tech,
kind of a new
because you
boon
now
tie
have to
into Armor,
detarget
where
if
it's
you
going
want to
give
like
barrier
actually
per unit
optimize the
boon on
potential.
you.
It also
Yeah,
takes
so
away the finesse
Cleansing
of
Fire
that,
giving might kind of
like
plays
when you
into
used to
that.
be able
And
to
also making a
use
camo
the
skill,
ability and then
boosting
lightning
cooldown
flash right in
that's gonna
front
make this a much more
to
fun
like,
cleanse option.
yeah, you can't do that anymore really because it does automatically. I don't know.
Notably, also on this page is that Soothing Disruption is not going to reduce the cooldown of cantrips.
What does it do then?
And we kind of rolled that in baseline in a few cases. We see Lightning Flash getting a big reduction in PvE, Cleansing Fire obviously lower than it used to be, Armor of Earth being
Oh, it just will grant you
about the same
boons
in
now.
PvE, but lower in competitive than it used to be. Ether Renewal again lower.
I think the boons are
And
like
this is something that we're going to be seeing a
regen
bit
and
throughout these
vigor.
notes, and probably a
Nice.
lot more in the future as
Ether
well.
Renewal's
Is the
pretty
idea of
good.
cooldown reduction traits and kind of how we don't
I
necessarily
miss the
want them to
lightning
have
flash
cooldown
is 20
reduction
seconds
types
now.
anymore.
Reduce. Oh, but it's only
Yeah.
And
PvE.
this is something that we've
I mean,
seen
darn.
recently a bit.
Wow,
and,
your first
just
swear
over
on the
years.
podcast
And
ever, actually, I
these
think.
traits dictating
Like, good
the
job.
of all of these
We're all there now.
skills
Actually, I don't know if Rook's
great
one
example
before.
is going to
Just
be
getting things
Shadow Works.
demonetized.
Rook is
You
the
know how it
worst,
works.
actually.
I
That's
I mean, I
very-
definitely have, I think.
Cooldown
I
reduction.
feel like I have.
We
Yeah,
saw a lot of
probably,
issues
maybe.
I think
around just,
Armor
like,
of
hiding
Earth is
shadows
really
even,
weird.
Blinding powder.
kind of
the
wish it
cooldown being
just
pushed
granted
so low
baseline
for Shadow
barrier,
Works specifically
but-
that we felt the need to nerf those skills and increase the cooldown.
It feels really
But then
tanky
any
and
build that does not have
great,
access to that trait,
actually.
I
just
think it's
felt
always
that
it
much
should have
worse
given
because the
barrier
skill is
always.
fundamentally balanced
but-
around having the cooldown reduction trait in a lot of
Like
cases.
it's another
So if you
thing
don't have
on
the cooldown
top of
reduction
it
trait,
where
your
it
skills
scales
will
based
be
on boons.
And so going through and kind of pulling out the
Yeah, I don't know
cooldown
why.
aspects
Is that
from
because
Which
it's,
I-
it's like your
is going to be
supply and
something
support,
that
then
just
it's going to be
creates a
better,
lot more
or what?
flexibility in how
Oh no,
you
I
are
think it
able
might
to
also
make your build,
consider the
because you'll be
trait
able
of
to,
Soothing Disruption, which gives you
you know,
two
take
other
these skills
boons.
without
So by
feeling bad
using
about
Armor of
not having
Earth, you'll
them.
get
Okay.
4
Yeah,
packets of
yeah.
boons.
And as Cal said, something that is going to be not exactly a general theme, but a common theme.
Oh, wait,
for
hold
lot
on
of
a second.
folks. We've done it for a few of the other classes as well.
Are they? They're taking away the trait that reduces the cooldown of conjured weapon abilities. But are they
Oh
then
no, no,
reducing
no!
the cool-
Don't wreck Boots' builds
Only.
for the whole
No, no, no.
conjured
There's
weapons.
there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Oh, okay.
We've seen
they're saying that they're doing that because
various elementalist builds.
there's so many
Still was a little bit too powerful.
powerful conjured weapons that require you to have the cooldown reduced.
On the same vein as what we've been talking
But
about.
it makes the less powerful weapons less good because the cooldowns, it doesn't matter if they're reduced or not or something like that. But are they reducing the cooldowns or are they just
I
nerfing
think
all
that's
conjure weapons?
what we may be currently missing. They may have got to explain that. I don't know.
Advantage of Earthshield in competitive
Wait,
mode at
listen.
the moment, or PvP specifically. And so this is kind of the first of the notes that we see that's going to be addressing some of that that dominance.
Yeah.
Oh no,
And I
they're saying they're
believe on the
dominant.
next
So
slide we
no,
got some-
doesn't
Well,
sound
it's
like
it's
it.
just Earthshield in PvP.
I know,
so they're-
right? That's it. Is it everything else? Because they didn't they
No,
nerf
it's
like
nothing else. It's just
Yeah,
Earthshield.
so
Ice
obviously,
Icebow
we
was
did a
nerfed
fairly
like
big rework
years
interceptor,
ago. Do you remember
last
that
patch.
when Icebow was like
Yeah.
the main
you know,
big
definitely
daddy
very
in
strong,
raids?
very powerful
Oh, they're
which
nerfing
forces
dragons
people
too.
to see, but maybe
Good.
depending
And
on
Water
it's a little bit too
Trident.
powerful, so
Have you
just
been in
down a
PvP
little
with
bit.
dragons
It's not
too?
that-
It's
just
the
dodge
worst.
it.
Down.
No, it's the worst.
a
No,
lot of
it's
these
not
things
even
are
that.
supposed to
It
be
like it
ammunition
used to
down,
be like
on a
it.
couple
I
of
didn't care
skills,
about the
water
damage. It was more of a skill shot before, but it's locked onto targets now. So
I know,
like,
just
it's
dodge it.
ridiculous. No. But
Now
no,
you have
but-
to time your
But new
dodge.
players like can't dodge that, and they can barely dodge
It's like
it.
it's like as impactful as the Dragon Hunter cage.
Obviously,
Dodge that. You
Scepter
have to
very
dodge
much
that.
No,
Dodge the
but
dragon's
it's
tooth.
not as important. Powerful as
That's
that.
kind of
There's gonna be a
tea
few more
though. That's
changes to
kind of
Catalyst
true,
that are gonna affect
Boots.
this build.
No,
It's kind of true.
The damage is much more from Dragon's
This is something that we'll
Tooth.
be keeping
It's
a
like
very close
10
eye on.
times more.
Obviously, we kind of had a
Yeah, it's more damage, but the impactfulness of being in a tiny cage is just as bad as 5,000 damage Dragon's Tooth,
No.
7,000
No,
damage.
in PvP. I just use a stun break.
Is capable of. So if the nerf
No, it doesn't work that way.
It
You're still
does.
stuck in there.
Oh no, yeah,
We're
that's
very
true.
prepared to
But like, I will
hit
use
it
stability,
again.
whatever.
It's not like we're gonna be waiting
To get
for the
out of
next
it is stun
balance
break.
out.
Quiet,
Except for
children,
Catalyst
quiet.
again. We also
don't
we
like
never
it.
want to just delete this build because it's obviously way overperforming at the moment, but it's actually kind of a fun build and it's something that we could see being a healthy piece of the competitive landscape.
Don't delete
assuming it's
it.
actually healthy. So we don't
I
want
don't
to
know.
just go
I've been
hard
fighting
and
this
eliminate the
Elementalist
build
in World
once
vs.
we
World, and it is not that
hit
tough.
it pretty significantly. We see like losing an ammo on kind of both the ammo skills and drain.
If you're an engineer in PvP, everything's tough
should
now. So.
have some impact as well as the other catalyst changes we're doing.
Engineer
If it's
sucks.
not enough, we'll hit it pretty rapidly again.
Absolutely. And as Cal mentioned, we've got more Catalyst specific changes coming up. But before that, we've also got a couple of Tempest and Weaver changes to talk about. First up is Lucid Singularity, so that's the Alacrity Grandmaster trait there on Tempest.
Oh,
And,
that's
when
much
this
better.
was added, obviously, great. Tempest
It's
now
still not
Alacrity,
great.
But
It's
this
much
is kind of a
better.
quality
Come
of life
on.
change.
It's
I
like
would say
a
it's
nice.
much better
Make it a little bit easier
because
to
it's the
generate
same
that
amount, so you're
goodness,
gonna
to
still
Alacrity.
sit in.
No, it's a nice
now-
in between people who want it at the beginning, so you could cancel cast your overloads, and people who have it at the end, so you have to do the whole overload. This way, at least you could do some of it, and then if you need to cancel it, you're okay. Because the cancel casting your overloads, if it was right at the beginning, causes a lot of people to be upset about the playstyle you need to do.
It will help,
Yeah, definitely a
but
nice quality of life.
only putting Alacrity on overloads
After that, we're
is
gonna
a
see
gameplay
this and the next
decision
phase
that they
is
made.
a lot of, Power Weaver buffs again. This is something
I think
we
it's
talked about
better, but yeah, I don't like it anyway. I didn't like it
actually
before.
performing, pretty
weird.
well in the hands of some of the best players. You see some pretty high numbers coming out of Weaver, but it feels still a little bit less accessible. So we do want to bump up kind of the
Okay, some
minimum potential of this build a
DPS
little bit,
Alacrity
and this is
Weaver
something that we'll
might
be keeping
be
a
seeing
very close eye on. Roy,
little
if
bit
you wanna go to
more.
the next slide, since we're basically talking about Weaver
Weaver.
stuff.
Sorry,
definitely
not
keeping a
Weaver.
very close eye on this. We have
Tempest.
seen
Tempest.
cases where
DPS
What?
more
Alac
demanding builds, we
Tempest.
are okay with them kind of really pushing the boundaries.
Weaver's
of
getting some nice.
maximum DPS
Okay.
in
These are all
very
buffs.
elite cases, and
Yeah,
we want to
in
make sure
PvE
that
though.
they're still feeling pretty,
Which
pretty
makes
good
sense.
for
Yes,
the more
good.
average case.
PvE.
So this is very much, we saw this with Catalyst.
Some of these
in
are just like
November
little
update, where
bumps.
We had some nice Catalyst buffs, pushed the top end of Catalyst just maybe
a
a
lot of
little
damage.
bit over the top, and we brought it back down a little bit. Similar case here with Weaver, where we're going to be
That
keeping
all
twin
power
strike
damage,
is
though.
pretty good.
And if
There's
they
that
push
healing
it
as
too
well.
far,
1.0.
then we will bring it back down. But we do feel like the
I mean, Weaver
of
is like a
minimum
DPS
effectiveness of
spec.
Weaver can be
Doesn't
brought up
really
a bit from
provide
where it
many
is, so-
boons, so this makes sense.
Absolutely.
They could probably even push it further. There will be someone who
Just
crunches
move
the
on.
numbers
Once
and
again,
is like,
in
it's
case
nothing,
you
it's
don't
no
have time
buff.
to get all these notes down.
It looks
these will all
like
be posted to the forums.
about a 10%
But even
across
for
the board
Catalyst,
weapon
so
increase for
obviously-
Weaver.
We've been talking about Catalyst being a little bit of a menace right now in PvP, so these are, of course, going to be PvP changes. Again, just really focused alongside a lot of those Scepter nerfs at bringing that power level of that Scepter Catalyst build down. So
I like
barrier on
nerfs.
Fortified Earth is going to be coming down.
Good.
And then
I
some
like
cooldown
that
increases
Roy
there
is wearing
for,
a
deployed
full-on
Shadesphere and Elemental
pressed
Celerity. Again, all
suit
PvP.
while Cal is in his
Yeah,
like
and these are a few
sweatshirt. I
things that
love
we've
it.
seen.
Yeah, Cal at the
get
beginning,
buffed
while
kind
you
of right after
weren't
Ender
here yet,
Dragons,
he was talking
Catalyst
about
was definitely
how
struggling to find
Roy
its place in
came in last minute with the suit, not telling me about it.
You gotta upstage and show out.
Yeah, he always wears a suit, doesn't he? He's worn suits for years doing this. He used to wear a suit when we used to commentate. I think started doing it there. Yeah, that was wow. That was. Yeah.
These are some nerfs for Catalyst. I don't know if this is going to be enough to ensure that Catalyst isn't apparently the last winner of the monthly tournament was 5 Catalysts.
Probably. I don't.
A pretty good block
PvP is such a
I'm
bad
honestly
state nowadays.
surprised. I'm surprised that they allow you to dupe classes in something like competitive. Like you can't. You'd think that there would be some kind of rule where you had to like have different players on different
There
specs.
was-
That would be
Right.
interesting.
There was back in the day in ESL, like we because there was a time where Dagger Elementalist Celestial was 5 players on one team because that build was ridiculous in every respect, and we had to change it. And like I was one of those people who was like, yeah, we can't do that. And then it was like, so we're gonna have 4 on one thief instead. But then they changed it. You can only be one elite specialization.
Yeah,
This is for you, Jeb.
the most sense.
Oh, hello.
Oh yeah, I get to take a nap real quick. Sorry, be back.
We'll see some changes to some of the
The best
kind of
class
less
in the
used
game.
skills on a bunch of professions as well. So let's hop
Usability
into it.
improvements. I'm looking forward to that.
So here are some of the just kind of core engineer and again pistol sort of focused updates. So just lowering the aftercast duration on
Okay.
fragmentation
Sure.
shot 25%. Poison dart volley again similar sort of
Like
vein here.
quality of life
lowering the
things, that's
casting
nice.
time
Utility
by
goggles is good.
half a second. Utility goggles is now going to
Remove more
an
conditions.
extra condition, an extra damaging condition. So that's 1 to 2 conditions removed, and that's just baseline throughout the game.
And nerfing
And then we're
Flame Jet a
lowering the
bit.
power coefficient per strike on Flame Jet. So that's the 1 on the flamethrower kit there. That's a
Again?
World vs. World specific change. We've seen Flamethrower having maybe a little bit too powerful.
Is it
in some
still
World
too
vs. World games.
powerful?
And so
No,
It
we're not in
always be too
PvP.
powerful.
I mean, World versus World, I see people run it a lot, but it's
You know,
not
utility
that
goggles?
bad.
Eventually, it'll get there. We added the one damaging condition back in November or October, and we're bumping it up to 2. One day it'll probably just cleanse all conditions and stun break you and give you resistance out of 30-second cooldown. then you'll play that skill. But I think it's getting a little closer at 2 Condi.
It's all right.
bit by bit.
I use it sometimes.
Shadowstone. But here we go. Scrapper now.
Yeah, so we got a handful of Scrapper notes here. The one that's probably the most exciting to me on the competitive side is the Damage Dampener note here. And this is a trait that, long
it's
story
different.
short, is Rapid Regeneration is a trait that used to exist in this slot.
Oh, so
And
they're
this was
bringing
kind
it
of like
back.
the defining sustain trait for Scrapper. It was the trait that was like,
Yeah.
when I have Swiftness or Super Speed, you get kind of a full healing.
Interesting.
And that really was kind of one of the key pieces of Scrapper.
We don't really
on the
see
competitive
old
side.
traits
That got replaced by Damage
return from the
Dampener.
game
Well, I
after
think it's 'cause
years.
Damage Dampener
Yeah.
hasn't had the same
Damage
impact.
Dampener,
It's
nobody
it's
really
kind of much
ran.
more,
Is
niche,
that the one with
effect where
delayed
sometimes it's very
damage?
Yeah.
useful, sometimes it's
Get your
A
damage
lot
two
of
seconds
people
later.
ran it, but
And so,
because it was
as
an
we're looking
extra
to
bit
kind
of
of bring up
defense, but it wasn't very
Scrapper,
good.
especially like the
But people
Bruiser
just
Scrapper.
ran it
I
because
kinda
there
like
wasn't
the
really anything
Bringing
else
back
good
a
in that
good
slot at
sustain
the
trait in that
time.
slot was really
I like the idea of
something
that
we wanted to do.
effect
And this obviously
maybe
competes
just
with
being like a
object in
skill
motion.
of some
It's gonna
kind in
be
the future,
defining
because
damage
we've
traits,
never
you will have to
seen
pick
like delayed
damage or
damage.
sustain,
It's
which
just
is
really
Scrapper
interesting
note, but this
gameplay
gives you
function
the
to like
option to really
pace
play
out
it
the amount of
That
damage you're
is
taking.
because you
Scrapper
can
with
navigate, because if you got bursted, you can navigate it with something else and
And of course,
buffer.
the
So it was
bottom
okay
here
if you
is more of
could
a
play around it, but
PvE
it's too
focus change
complicated for
for
people.
Power Scrapper is
That's the
just
problem.
I wonder
building
if
up the
rapid
bonus by
regeneration will
bonus
work with
power per
medical
light
dispersion
stat
field.
that applies
Probably.
to
Like, there
Also
was
just put
support
you-
Scrapper went downhill after they
similarly reduced
changed all of this. So, now I can play support Scrapper again.
That is just not communicated in the patch note, so good job, me.
Yeah, definitely your fault. But moving on now to the Mechanist usability improvements. So again, this is just aimed at making playing the Mechanist feel a little bit better.
Its
One
melee
thing
range
that's
was
probably pretty
240.
important to note here is the Mechanical Genius. So the duration of the buff is now going up from 6 seconds to 10 seconds. And that's really just aimed at making that penalty when that buff falls off feel a little bit easier to play around, a little bit easier to play with. We still want it to feel punishing. We still want it to have an effect, but make it just a little bit easier to play around, where we've seen maybe it struggle to not feel as punishing at that 6 second timer.
Yep, and also a nice note here is that we've kind of fixed the mech auto attack speed, where some people have noticed that
Oh, but Incendiary Powder,
down
the burn duration
significantly,
bonus in this
and
trait
that
now
was definitely
applies
not
to the
intended, so that is now fixed.
now
We
applies
will
to
once
with
again
the mech.
see a more
Wait, what?
kind of natural attack sequence from the mech. And then also, kind of the rest of
To
these
the
notes
mech.
are all playing
To
into
the
the
mech,
same
probably.
idea of the top note here. There's actually an issue with Mechanist where a lot of the mech
That's
skills
actually
are
really good
sourced
for
from
those
the
Condi builds.
engineer
That's
at
going to
the
be a bit.
moment. And so you use a
That'd be
skill
cool.
that applies protection on your mech skill, and it's actually being applied by the engineer, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's not really how other pet mechanics are kind of intended to work. So part of this update was fixing that interaction, making sure
Unless
that
you're
mech
playing
is
Soul
sourcing its own
Beast,
boons
and then your
conditions,
pet is
and
inside
then
you.
trying to make sure that we're
Yeah, that last
outputting about the same amount.
that last
right?
bullet
'Cause
point
obviously the mech
has
did not
some-
inherit from Incendiary Powder, did
has
not
some issues
inherit
with
from
it.
Serrated Steel. These things that increase
burning duration?
outgoing condition
Well, the burning
durations,
duration bonus of
and
this
similarly, the
trait
concentration bonus
now
for the mech
applies
To with the mech.
with the mech.
just to
Well,
make
it's
it feel
active.
a bit more similar.
Oh yeah. Oh no,
as
I have issues
mech
with
is now
that
sourcing all
spelling
these things,
issue
but we
because
don't
I
want the
I
asymmetry
have
to fall
like.
for the build overall. This is something that will be
Oh, my
keeping a very
doctor's
close eye on.
basically I've got
Do
dyslexia,
we
like
bump
it's
up the content
confirmed.
a
And
little
then
more?
I was
Bump
like,
up
is
some
this
of the
this
content
coming
more?
out like now? I mean, am I just not reading this? I am pretty sure.
I think the fact that they write trait twice means someone copy pasted an
minute.
edit and didn't do it.
Yeah.
Engineer there.
Oh, was that it?
Green
That was
class
it.
Necromancer.
That was not much.
So we
But
got a
Okay,
couple
I'm kind of excited about
weapon
Necro.
updates
Also,
here.
this is not all the
One
patch
dagger,
notes.
as well
There's-
True,
this is just like a
true.
snippet. So there might be other things
Cougar
that are
shout.
So
exciting.
they are definitely looking at a lot of weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
We've got
Hey.
dagger buffs.
Oh, that's kinda
So
sad.
while back.
Locust Swarm
Back when
reduced.
Warhorn 4 used to daze, it was also unblockable. When it was changed to fear, that was removed. It will now be unblockable again. And similar to other changes we've had, Banshee as well, so that is no longer going to reduce the cooldown of Warhorn skills. And so we're just going to roll those.
Is the
baseline,
Whale of Doom the
for
one
both Whale of
that
Doom and
causes
Locust
fear?
Isn't
on
he
the
the
wall?
Interrupt?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
Whale of
it's
Doom
now
specifically was
unblockable
like,
fear?
It was kind of something we were a little
Mhm.
worried about
Wow.
when we were shifting it from a daze to a fear. It's like, well, this is a little scary if it's unblockable, right? Realistically, well, it's a little scary because it's fear. I didn't even know that
Good
right
one.
now, so it's hilarious.
Oh my
It's
god.
hilarious until
Totally
you
realize
explain your
it's
joke.
But yeah, we've kind of seen
I
that
think
Warhorn
it's
isn't
funnier than-
super, as strong as we want it to be. So we're
Jesus Christ.
once again adding that unblockable, making it feel just a little bit more
It-
powerful.
it-
a little bit more
that's
potent,
very
a little bit
strong.
more scary.
It is very strong and it's too much.
Moving on to the
think.
dagger stuff, this is
Because
kind of
it's not
trying
just
to
a PvE
solidify
thing,
dagger
it's
as
like
more
everything
a little
thing.
bit more of like a bruisery weapon, not
interesting.
completely, but compared to something like axe, we want dagger to
Give
stand out as
someone in the
like
chat goes,
a
give
better
Guardians
life force
Fear 2,
generator or
please,
like a
reading
better
it.
boon rip source for
What?
sure. So that's where a lot of these changes
That
are
was so
focused. We see
weird.
some life force increases
Unless
on
there
the
were
auto
like
attack,
some.
in addition to
I
the damage
don't know.
from PvE. But then also Dark Pact is going to grant life force per boon removed. And so a slight adjustment here on the competitive side is that it's now going to just remove
Oh,
boons instead
why?
of corrupting them. And this is because we wanted to increase this number, but we feel like pretty concerned. Like if we just bump this up to a 3 boon corrupt
Yeah, that's rough.
on Dark Pact and PvP, that would be pretty problematic, I think.
Yeah.
So making it just a boon rip in competitive modes allows us to really make it a threatening
But you've
boon
kind
rip
of
skill
nerfed
and not have
it
to worry about the
in this
kind of
case.
added
now.
effects of corrupting. And then also adding on this life force component. So now it's going to grant you life force for every boon that you remove.
But the corrupt is like
And,
important.
just
a little bit more. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, just go over the numbers, because obviously there's 3 splits here for the numbers. It is going to be 3. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
It's
Go
going to be
ahead.
3 in PvP, 2 in World vs. World, and 3 in PvE. Obviously, just the various adjustments there. But yes, this will all be on the forums.
Life
after
Siphon
this.
might feel better to use as a
And
damaging
I guess a
skill
quick
now.
final note there that may have been noticed already. Dark Pact is also just going to naturally inflict bleeding on the enemy target as well. And this was just kind of
Still
a
would have loved
change
some
that made
axe
sense
changes.
because Life Siphon also cares about bleeding targets. And Dark Pact,
Like what?
Nothing on
Axe
the
is
dagger
pretty
gets
good.
besides bleeding.
Not
The
really.
initial idea
It's
behind
great in
that
PvP.
was
Why is it
that
not
you
good at
apply the bleed
PvE?
yourself with Dark Pact,
It's so
then
slow
transfer it with
and weak in
something else,
PvE.
then get
It's
the full
just
value.
Oh, it's
as a
ridiculous.
damage
It's
a
like
mid-weapon.
there's the so the damage on 2 is like ridiculous if you have an intelligence sigil as well, and also if you use 3 you can just corrupt like
In order to get
so many boons like around people. It's
well, that's in
kind of good.
PvP,
Yeah.
but in
Life
PvE,
Siphon
like the
doing-
auto attack is not great.
These are the
This 2, I guess 2 is bursty rather than just like there's no real good rotation in there, I suppose. And you can't do boons in PvE, it doesn't really matter. Anyway.
cooldowns of shouts.
Life Siphon
Correct.
doing 50% more damage on bleeding
So again,
targets might
similar
be a
to
good
every
amount of
other
damage.
time we've done this so far in this patch. And then all of these shouts themselves are going to grant additional effects and damage if you are within
Yes.
melee range.
Buff
of your target.
Reaper.
Right now,
Woo! I love
you're still
Reaper.
gonna
It's
have
one of
that-
my
that
favorite
range
elite
on the
specs.
shout. You're still going to hit
Give it
a target
very
even if you're not in
strong.
melee range. But
Me.
if you are in melee range with that shout, it will improve the shout itself and how much damage it does and what it is doing to your target.
Ooh.
Okay, so they're
Yeah,
removing
this is
augury
really trying to
breath,
solidify Reaper as
the
a-
reduction of shout skill duration,
really
but then they're
in-your-face
reducing the duration
melee
of they're
playstyle,
reducing the
and
recharge of all
it's
shout
obviously
skills.
a little bit of a higher risk for something like Reaper to dive into melee
So they're making
range,
it
but now
baseline.
shouts are going to be that much more rewarding. You're going to get more
So you're
life
just
force,
doubling
you
up
know,
if you're in melee
all these
range.
things.
Oh, Shield to the Bone now deals damage, and that's PvP as well. Interesting, because normally they said if there's a CC skill, they will not add
Yeah.
damage to it.
You know,
They've
And that-
definitely been walking that back, especially with elite skills. They've been
Yeah.
walking that back.
That's true.
The damage probably won't be that noticeable in PvP, because it still is an area of effect attack.
It's elite though, so I wonder how
But
much.
it's
it is.
36 seconds. It's a very spammable elite.
Yeah.
A little bit. But in PvP, we are going to now make it so that the cooldown on Chilling Victory, the ICD on it, is going to go down from 2 to 1 seconds.
I can't remember what
Game
Chilling
wide,
Victory
it
is.
will now
Wait,
trigger,
Blighter's
when
Boon's
you
got a
remove
nice
permanent enemies,
buff.
just when
What's
you
Chilling
apply it
Victory?
yourself.
yeah,
Chilling
so
Victory
that's
is
really trying
gaining might
to
and life
kind of
force when
create
you
the
strike a chill
option
target.
for Reaper to
Interesting.
get a little
That
more
is
defense than they want it,
huge.
'cause obviously, Blighter's Boon does
That's a-
compete with
That is really big.
in that trait slot. Very powerful offensive option to get quickness, get the extra ferocity, all that
Oh,
good
yes,
offense
they are.
Twice as
but
good now,
want
Chilling
a
Victory.
little bit more defense.
I think that it's just literally twice as good. It's literally, it's
Then you can
yeah.
go into Blighter's Boon.
That's.
This is something
I
that
think they're
you
gonna. I
want to be a
think this
powerful
is too
defensive
much.
option, so adding
I mean, they're doing too. I think this might be a bit powerful.
as well gives it a little bit more.
It's not that weak though, is it? At the moment, I guess in PvP competitive modes it doesn't get used much, but like.
It's one might and like a very small amount of life force.
No, I mean generally, like, is Reaper worth used in raids
Oh.
much? It's easy. People
Yeah.
play it.
Yeah, people play it.
Yeah.
It's a lot better since they've been buffing everything.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And Chilling Victory, I think it was nerfed maybe like 6 or 7 years ago in PvP.
Now, so Blighter's
Yeah,
Boon,
probably not really necessary anymore.
can it be used together?
Oh, that was 6
Yeah.
years ago.
Alright.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Oftentimes you
this
take
is
Chilling
Necromancer,
Victory and
it's
Blighter's
everyone's
Boon
favorite raid
together.
class,
There's
Ranger.
definitely going to be a lot
and
of
so
very
we got a bit of an
tanky
update
Reapers
to
again.
Wilderness Survival.
Yeah.
Necromancer was everyone's favorite.
Especially with being able to rip boons and
Yeah.
destroy them, you're gonna get healing and life
We've
force,
also
depending
got,
on which mode you're in.
several Traits, that will be
Ooh, Reaper Shot's gonna get real
tanky.
tanky. Ooh, but you have to
And we're looking at stances of
exchange it for the lack of quickness and ferocity.
Yeah, because that's what
So
people are
kicking
taking
off,
otherwise.
we
Yeah.
got a couple of wilderness survival updates here at the top to Empathic Bond and Rugged Growth. And this is really
Here
trying
you go.
to
Here you
kind
go.
of bump
Rick's
up
class,
the
the druid.
survivability
Well, one of your
certain
classes.
ranger builds. Because we've seen, the
I'm there
strength
as well.
of roaming ranger
Ooh,
builds,
removing
whether it's,
conditions for the ranger and the pet.
Untamed or Sick'em Soul Beast or things along those lines.
What was
but
it before?
the More bruisery side
I think it
node
was like
type
you just
builds
share
from
50%
ranger for
of the
either Soul
duration
Beast
between you and your
or,
pet.
the potential
Oh,
for Untamed,
yeah, but that was very
as a side
strong.
node, but more of that bruiser playstyle.
This will be a bit more like an
Not as
on-demand,
powerful, and
complete
that's really
removal.
because Rugged Growth got hit pretty significantly once upon a time, maybe three years ago or so in February.
Okay, a little pulse.
Oh
heal.
wow,
So,
muddy terrain
bumping that
reduced
back up
cooldown. Why
to-
though?
Obviously, it's not going back to the
Why
old value,
entangle
but establishing
reduced
again wilderness
cooldown?
survival
Ugh.
as that
Why would
good
you do
defensive
that?
trait line for a ranger
More
is going to help
entangle for your
facilitate these more
entangle.
defensive-focused
There's
builds.
already
And
so there's like
Empathic
really
Bond is
horrible
piece of
like
that.
kind of CC
Well, the
builds on
reason-
ranger, and now
sorry.
it's even worse.
To answer your question, is because wilderness knowledge, the trait no longer reduces the cooldown of
I
survival.
know, but does that mean you have to reduce all of them? I thought it should be used in the sense of when it is appropriate to reduce the cooldowns.
I guess so. I guess that makes sense.
Cleanse conditions from both you and your pet. And a couple of
But still.
Does have an
But the
IC
general remote, yeah.
cooldown.
Because now it's just going to be baseline, so that's very powerful. It's not something you have to
Yeah,
decide.
because then they have to then change everything. Like, well, maybe
they're
they
not
can. Maybe it means
improving
they can
wilderness.
change individual things.
Using
Sorry.
So
go on.
wilderness knowledge just adds
Sandwiches.
Fury on-
Yeah. Fury,
adds
sorry.
fury on survival use.
Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty lame Grandmaster trait now.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're not adding anything to these traits that are reducing
Yeah.
cooldowns, because I mean, I don't really mind it, but where they're positioned on the line would determine if it feels bad or not.
Open a lot more doors for Ranger, so they aren't as locked into their Condi removal utility skills.
Is wilderness knowledge a Grandmaster trait?
Survival skills gonna be.
Can't remember.
I think it is. I think it is a Grandmaster.
It is. So now, and so if they remove that, yeah. It also removes conditions.
They're gonna be lower
Okay,
baseline,
that's
but
good.
we were very
Yeah.
cognizant of the fact that Druid in World versus World, especially after the October buffs that we had to it, is starting to be seeing a lot more play, especially in small scale where the Amoeba is a lot more relevant. We didn't want to basically just give those cooldowns to Druid for free, and so Muddy Terrain is not going to have that cooldown rolled in baseline. We did do it for Entangle in World versus World, but that's already competing with Glyph of the Stars, so it doesn't seem as big of an issue there. But that's certainly something that we're keeping an eye on. But otherwise, just
Okay, so
lowering
they know
cooldowns
that
on
it
a lot
is
of these,
crazy to
survival skills.
reduce the cooldown of Entangle just for free. So they are keeping an eye on it. All right.
Next up,
Yeah, but they're keeping
some,
an eye
some
on
more
it. It means that it stays in the meta for like 3 months, and then that's it.
I mean, sometimes though you do have to, I think, take a swing. You have to try something, put it out there, see just how much it actually affects things, and then bring it
Yeah,
back.
they've done that. They've done that since long. The problem is that they just don't think things sometimes, and it's like it drives me wild. It's the sole reason why PvP like season 1 of Pro League just tanked so hard because of Mesmer.
That was
Chronomancer.
also 2015.
I mean, it was
2016.
The Chronomancer like balance was like it didn't do anything. They didn't change it.
it didn't have cooldown reduction.
It was just tank on tank. It was the worst. It was just
Speaking of
awful.
that seems like it could be interesting now.
Let's pump up the power level a little bit. That's also
Sorry, I'm getting memories of sadness entering my head of that.
I'm gonna give AoE Might, AoE Fury, and that trait will no longer.
I'm not trying to sound
So
negative.
we have
Balance
more
is
the
just a
cooldown
thing with me.
of these,
Just a
signets
bit
here.
slow in
And
my
a minor
opinion.
Updates to Signet of the Hunt as well. Just trying to make it a more.
Look at this.
potent,
Super speed in addition to unblockable
more
and reduce the
general
cooldown
option
in
for a
half.
very specific use case. It's now going to give you super speed in addition to unblockable.
Thank you,
stats. So
really.
it does
Yes,
a
it
lot more
is,
utility
basically.
value
And
in
I'm not
the-
making light of that condition, but
potentially,
like
with
that
the
concern,
boost
but
skills,
good
get Might,
lord.
Fury, unblockable.
Thank you for
yourself,
remembering.
super speed yourself.
I feel
Potentially,
validated.
maybe. I don't know. You probably still don't play it, but we'll see.
It's certainly a lot more attractive now.
I like the signet
renewal also
I know you're
reduction
not.
getting
cooldown
resistance
duration
as well as
because
resistance,
ranger
just
signets
to
always feel
basically
very
keep the pet
punishing
alive a
because they
little
have such long
longer,
cooldowns.
where before it was only going to be preventing those movement impairing conditions, it'll now stop all conditions from damaging the pet and affecting the pet when you use the signet.
That's a skill that
I
got
think
hit pretty
if
hard by
anything
the
I've seen
resistance
so
rework,
far
because it granted resistance back
feels
when resistance was super
groundbreaking.
powerful, so it did
Not
keep it
really.
alive.
Like
And
anything
yeah,
that like
really.
really
we did actually
changes.
consider making a
The most
very
exciting thing was
specific,
probably the
unique
elementalist
pet
changes
only
for me.
resistance type
Like those
buff.
were some of the ones that I'm like,
That would
oh,
make
this
the
could
pet
have
on-
I think the
interesting
engineer
resounding
ones
effects.
interesting,
out
maybe
with,
with
a
potential heal
resolution
scrappers and
in
stuff.
actual
But I think that
gameplay
might be a
so
bit
you can
much
play
in the end.
it
It's not like big.
Oh, that would
I
just
know
be a
what you
tank
mean.
scrapper.
I think it's just
Yeah.
because I play Scrapper a lot. Probably, and that's just for me. I'm like, oh yeah,
Move
that's
on to
nice.
Soul Beast and
I mean,
Untamed. And so I'll
We can
just-
talk
I'll
about
just go
the
ahead and skip all the
general
Soul Beast
balance
stuff,
later as well, and the idea and
which is
how we
at a
think it's
natural
going
source
compared to the
of
past, because I'm
is
not
now
sure
not
about
gonna
how
be
I
in
feel about
Syntax,
it.
Which we were seeing a lot of interactions with Untamed, specifically in competitive modes, where you would port in with Cage or port in with Maul, and it was just a little bit too.
I really don't know much about
I
Soul Beast and
guess.
Untamed
Have a
nowadays.
small
I'm
cast
just
time,
completely
but
out of the loop
thank you
with
for being
this.
able to port in
Dolly
and
X
always
Unnatural
use
traversal has a
and
cast
follow up.
time. No, I mean it's very short. It's
definitely
fine,
gonna have a
but
pretty big impact on.
Oh,
like,
that
the
is
way
a shame,
patterns
actually, you're
are
right.
capable of doing.
because that's all it
So
does,
we
and it
didn't wanna
applies like
do
5
too many
vuln,
further
but like
adjustments
that's
in
it.
the same
Yeah.
update.
They want
No,
a
you're
window
right.
for interrupts.
Is
0.25
Cage still
seconds,
the
good luck.
0.25 seconds.
Your reaction
Is the
times are
damage still
like,
too high?
yeah,
No,
okay.
Probably, maybe. But again, this is going to
Voice
be a
in
pretty
the
big
chat is
shift
like,
in
Untamed Dead,
Untamed
go
gameplay, and we
next.
wanna see what
No, but
happens.
it's true,
really
like,
like-
because like one of the greatest things Untamed could do is like the
Moving on to
port
some of the Soul
in
Beast stuff, we can start
while
with
doing other
one of the
stuff
more
for
exciting
surprise
changes,
attack.
somewhere in the middle here.
But if it has a
Primal
cast time, you
Prize
can't do other
is
stuff
Or
at
like
the
an
same
assassin
time.
cast.
Makes
Yeah.
everything slowly. Yeah, I don't know.
I will say it is a very forgiving utility skill because its
Applies
cooldown is
vulnerability
reduced by
if we
half
have a
if you
little bit of
land on the
Yeah.
target.
It's
So
also going to apply to poison. So
I
it's
guess this
kind
is
of
a very
Now it's harder
slight
to land
balance.
too, though.
just condition-based
Ever
solution
so.
modes in
I will
general,
say I love the
because
Soul
they're cool
Beast
to put
dagger
damage,
improvements.
adds
It
to
seems
some
like double
poison
arc.
interactions on ranger traits and
I
Soul
like
Beast
it.
traits, and just makes the skill a little bit more potent. And that's going to kind of add,
Instinctive
alongside
engage
some
will
of the
feel
other
nice as
changes that are
well.
more competitive focused of trying to potentially make side node Condi Soul Beast into a potent option, because we see Eternal Bond healing coming up. We're going to see, we already saw it, Wilderness Survival buffs increasing sustain as well. And then also potentially some of the
Primal
boon-based,
Cry, doesn't that just
Soul Beast
apply
builds,
bleed
maybe
and
coming back. We
damage?
see most
It's the
fancy cooldown
condition when
coming
you're
back down,
melded with a
Dolly
Condi
X
pet.
stance, cooldown coming back down with a
Okay. I
Yeah, it's
don't
coming
know.
out now. It also has poison, maybe.
Poison is very strong and competitive.
Skills
Yeah.
Yep.
with that do stability
People don't
and
use it
stuff
enough.
for a long duration.
'Cause they don't know.
Except Necros, because Necros is everywhere.
Dolly X Signet, Dolly X Dance,
Most of the time, yeah.
skills, because that amount of stability was just a little bit too much. But we're trying to bring the cooldown back down to make these skills a bit more appealing, while also reducing the duration just so it doesn't blow out the stability too much. But it does make Dolly X Dance, again, kind of like a very appealing option for that more defensive stun break.
Absolutely. All right, moving on from Ranger, we get to Thief. So Thief is going to have kind of similar to Ranger, where we're looking at the signets.
I'm excited about
Straight.
rifle changes. Dead
So we're
eyes.
going to be looking at some CDR overhauls for them.
PvE
Also
rifle
looking
damage
at
judgments.
Deadeye's mark usability improvements. And
Deadeye
some
could be one of the
rifle
classes I've
weapon
played the
adjustments
least
for
in this game, to be fair.
on,
I guess
Don't play
they
much.
All right,
They
so
don't
wanna
want.
kick things off?
Do they have,
Jedi.
So
Oh, yeah, go
do
ahead.
they have mods in their chat right now? They normally do, but I feel like I'm seeing some spicy, weird comments not
Yes,
getting
I'm
deleted.
definitely-
Wait, what's going on? Wait, I need to see.
Yeah, there is way more than usual.
A little bit more. Give some
I think it's because it's the balance patch, and now it feels a little bit more
so hopefully that won't blow things too far.
memey than it used to be. I'm
Sometimes Signet
have some
skills to
thoughts
grant
about that.
Yes! Oh, yes!
But it's definitely something we wanted to start.
What are you guessing?
Signets of Power, this trait
Oh, the
changes
chat. Okay.
is very different.
Very powerful indeed.
Signets of Power used to be on
So as we
kill,
see
your
some
signets did
cooldown
something
reduction
else.
and,
Now
Yes.
it causes signet skills to grant initiative when
Signets of
activated.
Power
That's
was a trait that we didn't really see a lot of
that's kind of
play with, and so something that we do well.
that's
And
huge.
it's copy paste is going as well.
Is, well, if no one plays the trait, then we don't necessarily need to roll in all the cooldown baseline because there's no.
I don't think I'm a mod
real
anymore.
reason that
I used
these
to be.
skills are
Yeah, I
balanced
think
around
they
that
maybe
because,
took some of the partner.
no one's
I think they
playing
took all the
traits, so
partner
they're
mod
not
status away.
So it'll be like Signet of Agility. is not
Yeah,
really
I think it's good
That
because
skill
I
is
used to
already
stream on that channel as well years ago, so I had to have a mod. But they added loads of us, didn't they?
Whereas
Oh, well.
things like Signet of Infiltration,
They don't
Signet
want to
of
reduce
Shadow,
the
Signet of
cooldown of
Malice,
trick
things that don't get
skills.
as played are going to
Okay.
get that cooldown
Okay.
rolled in baseline.
Any thieves in our live broadcast want to comment on how they feel about the changes? And hello, welcome everyone who's just come in.
Notably like Withdraw, already a very powerful skill even without Trickster. Trickster is a trait that also doesn't get played too much, competes with Bountiful Theft, tough one to beat.
Glad you can make
But
the
now we're
show as
bumping
well.
up the Condi removal from 1 to 2, which does make it a potentially really interesting Condi cleanse option for Thief if you are playing.
And if you're wondering where Crichton Herald is today, they're not feeling very well, everyone. So please send your love and messages and all the things to them. They've got a bit of a cold right now, so you've
But
just
these
got on
changes are
wonderful
fine.
four faces.
By
Oh,
the
these
way.
changes are
Yeah,
fine. They're fine.
they're fine.
They're whatever. It's just the
I just
cooldown
don't care
reduction
because it's
stuff.
fake.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've been playing a bit more Thief, and it's actually been very. Funnily enough, I've been playing a lot of Deadeye, but I do take some Signets with some builds, and
You do.
Signets passives just always feel the best, and you never really want to use it. But I like when they reduce the cooldown of Signets.
So Skunk Venom.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
not a massive fan of signets, I think, sometimes. Because of they just feel like these passive things. I like that they're good for feel like new players and stuff who kind of just want
interesting. So
standard
Signet of
things.
Malice.
Pull up. Steel is no longer replaced by Swipe when Daredevil specialization is equipped.
Oh, so you don't. Oh, it's not shorter distance now. It's
I kind of like the shorter distance. Ah! I don't know. I just liked it. Okay. I guess it didn't really do anything else. If it had a different active effect to it, I think it would.
And they reduced the
more
cooldown
interesting.
to it.
Yeah, they did.
But we are also going to be lowering the cooldown baseline on Steel from 30 to 25 seconds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have they ever done that with Steel?
That is accurate. And
What do you
a
mean?
couple other
Like, have
Daredevil
they
changes
ever
to
had the
round out this
cooldown that
line.
low before?
Just some cooldown
Yeah.
reduction on some skills. That
They have. On
Yeah.
The Keen
and with,
Observer thing
okay.
is notably kind of a. It's obviously going to affect all Thief builds, but it's a little bit.
These
different.
these changes are so
That is
stupid in my opinion.
reliant on
So Signet of Malice.
Speak your truth. Speak your
I
truth.
just don't even hold back, mate.
It's
Signet of Malice is the
Obviously
heal
above, but it's
skill
also like
signet.
more-
So
What
they
about
reduce the
super
baseline reduced that cooldown
Another
from
one.
to 12
On the next
seconds.
slide.
Yeah.
It's on the next slide.
That's pretty low for a heal
So we are
skill.
on the Deadeye slide.
I mean, it's still
So
the
Deadeye's
same
mark
as
is no longer gonna
the
be
mending, I
removed when
guess,
you
or not the
go
mending.
down.
The
So, I guess
dodge roll
again, it's a nice
backwards
quality
one.
of life improvement. In the event that you go down, you're not going to lose your mark.
Where's the
Death's
Death's Judgment buff? Where's the Death's Judgment buff?
And that's just going to.
In the
make sure
patch
that
notes, they're coming out
playstyle is
in
not
a couple of weeks.
super
What the-
disruptive, just because whoops, you accidentally went in the downstate. And beyond that, we have.
I mean,
a lot of rifle
I
buffs,
like
as
these
we alluded
buffs.
to
It'll
earlier.
just make using
This
rifle
is
from the moment
kind
to
of a
moment
case
gameplay feel a
where
bit better.
all
Deadeye is
PvE.
now super dagger
Yeah, I
focused.
mean,
We're seeing,
the game mode that matters.
We wanted to see. We made some rifle buffs. The improvements in the previous patch to allow you to move.
Wait a
little
second.
bit
Shadow Meld no longer removes
Rifle's still
revealed.
Not quite up to the level that we would need it to be for people.
The only thing it really did.
Isn't that the kind of name of the trait as well? Like Shadow Meld, like melding you
And
in
then the final
to
note.
the light.
Shadow,
from
the only thing
shadow.
Shadow Meld did
No
was
one's gonna
remove
take
revealed.
Shadow Meld
That was the whole
now.
point of the skill.
on Deadeye is now
They
Wait, it
could have
must
just
have done
made it.
something else.
No, it just stealthed you and
it
removed
felt
revealed
bad
and then
to
stealth you
reload
to have a
to
guarantee stealth,
already a
but it
very
had 2
powerful ability
charges.
that, you know,
Why not just reduce to
grants
1
you stealth
charge?
on a relatively short cooldown.
What?
And being able to remove reveal from yourself, the counter to stealth, seemed a little bit too strong.
That's
Oh.
a
Again, it's
fair.
Remove the
What?
counter to stealth.
Yeah, I mean, you
Wait.
might even call it a little
You'd
bit
think though
unhealthy.
that would be the point of
We
having
definitely know
stealth
how-
on a class
So,
that you could use it to be
yeah,
stealthy.
we do kind
As
of
your
have that revealed
elite
is the
skill,
counterplay to
and it's
stealth, so
only on
having
yourself.
this
It's
skill
not
that
like an
just
area of effect
There's some
ability.
multiplies stealth,
Really random changes in here.
fundamentally problematic.
I'm like,
so making it not
I mean, I see a
have
lot
that
of people in the
same
chat
impact
see
competitive modes, definitely the
that,
right
but to me it does feel like it kind of, like,
And I believe
I don't know. Like, shouldn't that be what you can do as your elites? That
I
I
think
think-
it's a very silly
yeah,
change,
Roy actually
but on the
pointed out
other
those are
hand, it's
practice
dead
points.
eyes. Who cares?
Yeah, true.
see, now
But the
here-
thing is that I think
talk
sometimes,
about
and this is something we can talk about later with in mind, is that a
so
class can
Shadow
be
Sap
strong in
is now going
something
to
as
have
long
a
as,
targeted version of
and
the
that's
Spirit
okay as long as another class is strong in something as well. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Random
engineer was always weak in condition
Right.
removal, so like, you know, it was kind of shitty versus condition
ability to
build.
play
So I'm
around,
like,
groups.
I don't mind there being
The target
strengths. Like, do we all
Well,
have, does
silence
everything have
is
to
that
be
he
so?
works, which is now going to daze enemies on the initial
I don't
strike,
know.
and then
That was very
allies in the area of
2012 balance philosophy.
Shadow Force for each condition removed.
Enemy targets versus skills grants might.
Mm.
Ally targeted version now
Interesting.
grant
Well, feel a little
protection.
better to play with.
Okay.
We didn't really see it being taken very
Is
often.
it?
I think
And
this
similar
is
to
a
Roll
good
Bounty, and similar to
for
getting,
Shadow Sap in terms
Oh,
of
hold on a second. Grants
support.
protection?
Yeah, if you're targeting an ally.
Yeah, but is it AoE protection?
Yeah.
Is
The
it?
air- Yeah,
Are you sure?
I imagine because they
Why imagine
in the
ally
context
targeted?
of the sentence they
But
say
it's
now
ally
grants
targeted.
might
It might
in
be
an
just
area.
protection to that one ally.
Thank you. My generation.
It could be, but if you're gonna have the AoE ring, you might as well just double up on it so it keeps the skill kind of
Some
consistent.
builds just fundamentally are able to provide a very large amount of might stacks, and some builds are.
Is that Boots?
'Cause
I love
Shadow-
Boots. Someone said they love you in the chat, Boots.
Oh, I love you
And this is
too,
probably a
whoever you
bigger
are.
problem
It was me.
if you want to use
No, it wasn't really.
overall
Skills rework
amount of
nowadays
might
is
that we're
enemies
getting
initial
out
strength.
is
Shits from allies.
reasonable.
Oh, that's
We
pretty
don't want
good.
a
I would.
single
Oh,
It's a
this
nice
is a healing
support
buff.
one.
might without investing too much.
This
This is a
well,
great heal.
That's
This is a
not
great
something that
buff
we're
for
gonna do
heal
in the
spectre.
near future, but
yeah,
in the
this is
short
great for
term,
support and
we
heal,
want
but it does
I'm excited for that.
kind
That's
of
cool.
And
destroy
increase might
its.
stacks from 6 to 8. My god, they just hit all of the things.
On Spectre, we're gonna see that.
However,
Spoiler,
you are
it's a
losing
little
that very consistent CC, which was kind of
And-
broken.
Notably, Well of Silence was kind of
Yeah.
a less powerful
Wait,
skill.
you
Also,
still have it on
it's
your
actually an
elite
unhelpful
skill.
mechanic where it had pulsing days.
Well, the elite skill's a
So
3
we reworked
pulse.
that to only days on
Yeah,
the
but you could
elite
also just use
strike, and then make it a-
Venom.
just to make it a more.
That is
something
true.
We feel more comfortable
But
having a
this is well, it used to like
give it,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
avenue to
fully
also
daze
be
the
an
entire duration.
Condy removal aspect for.
Yeah, there's not much moderation going on at all. Big willy buffs. Like, oh,
Hey,
man.
so I would just like to say that although it looks like those are kind of minor things, they pinpointedly addressed a lot of issues that Heal Spectre needed in order to be slightly more competitive as a heal spec.
I would say that it still needs a little bit more, but it's. I think they are.
If it's an
positive
if it's
I think
changes.
AoE
trying to,
protection,
where are you
it's
talking
okay.
about though? What area are you talking about? Are you talking about like competitive? Are you talking about like PvE?
Oh, like rating. Right.
Perfect. Rating. Okay. Does it really need a buff for rating?
Oh yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
because it should be a specific healing spec, or is it like, you know, should it be a main healer spec? I guess. Can it be
kinda
like a
its
hybrid?
theme.
I mean, it could be if it had a couple more buffs.
Yeah, could be.
Should it be, though?
Changes here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it could.
Endless Enmity. This is the
It heals more
minor
than
trait that
anything
applies
but Druid.
To yourself when you critically
Really?
strike an enemy that is under
Yeah.
half.
What, even Tempest?
And
Yeah,
this is something where we saw
Really?
an
yeah.
opportunity to
Yeah.
give Revenant a
It's
bit more
pretty
serious
strong
share, similar to
with the
how
traits.
we want to improve might
And the teleporting.
for all support builds.
The teleporting.
Fury is also a pretty significant boon
Fair enough.
for groups to have. maybe a very important boon. So this was a great opportunity as we're looking at this trait that's kind of weak already.
I still think they should have icons next to the name of these abilities, because some of these I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking
Proof,
about.
like, I mean, the fact that you were able to pick up so much of what they were talking about anyway, I'm already like very, like, when I was in the balance and I knew everything, I knew every single bit, now I don't, and I'm like, I have to look it up. The best balance notes to look up, and this is for everyone to watch the stream, look at the wiki when it comes out, like, just go there, like, they've got the best version. I'm not sure why they don't. It's a lot more effort, probably. It's a lot of extra work, but I would like them to show us more video footage of all this stuff, honestly. It's more engaging.
Proof. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think that protection is AoE protection. And I think that's still something it's going to be like.
I hope it is. That's why I said yes, because if they're sharing
I hope it is too, but it's weird that it would make you go to ally targeting from enemy targeting just for the protection.
It makes
and then
sense.
It's AoE.
It's very in line with how the Spectre's already formatted in terms
But
of
everything that's ally targeting is all single target.
Definitely, a nice change to the trait there to potentially make some DPS Renegade builds a little bit more viable.
True.
Yeah.
There was a fun note.
True.
Oh, someone saying something very unusual
Doesn't
from
have to be.
Guild Wars players. I never dodge. In chat.
Oh yeah, that brutal momentum.
But also the final note here
Rough.
for Renegade is kind of an increase in the alacrity duration on orders of above, and this is going to just allow a bit more flexibility in terms of how you gear. Not going to require as much
That's nice.
duration, give you space to have a bit more
Alacrin.
on your Alacrin builds.
Yeah, absolutely. Here for Vindicator. So again, these are going to be mostly focused on the competitive side. In fact, pretty much all focused on the competitive side. And so,
Just nerfs.
Vindicator definitely a pretty strong
yes.
competitive in PvP. It's been overshadowed a little bit by some of the
I
other
don't know if the
specs
Spear of
that we've seen
Archimedes needed that.
recently, but still definitely
I don't know if Vindicator was that bad in PvP.
They've been gutting Spear of Archimedes since like the last balance patch
I feel
they
like
reduced.
sometimes
it's
they're like one
range.
patch behind with stuff. I feel like people moved on from them. I don't know, I'm not sure about this. Maybe I'm not playing PvP as much as I used to.
I mean, it's I actually like when PvP gets nerfs, because if you're reducing so many cooldowns, the gameplay gets so much faster if you're reducing cooldowns and cast times, and if you don't compensate that with reduction in power, it's even worse to play because you're just getting like instantly deleted, which you already are.
Yeah. I think they're just reducing power mostly though.
Yeah.
It's just damage. It's not really cooldowns much. Yeah, it's just power.
But the cooldowns for Vindicator are already pretty short, I would say, because this is like an elite spec that was made
I
in
just
the
don't remember
idea.
having problems versus Vindicators right now. Maybe it's too easy.
Well, I mean, there's still the option in Wars of the World of having a Trailblazer Vindicator that's almost impossible to kill and still kills you. So
Okay.
I don't think any of this affects that. So I don't
It's
know.
on PvP. There's only two things for World v World, right?
Are they not doing Guardian?
They're coming to Guardian.
We're just not there yet, I don't think.
Oh yeah, that's
We're-
true.
We're at Revenant.
I know G is before R usually.
Well, maybe are they doing it in alphabetical
No,
order, or is
no.
it just that maybe they
always
want
been in
I think they
alphabetical
just
order.
change the order sometimes because of.
No, they went Ellie, NG,
They're not healing as
and then
Guardian.
next would usually be Guardian, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're bigger changes.
Because we're at Warrior.
Oh, here we go.
I guess they're not doing anything with Guardian.
We brought ourselves
Just-
back to
I'm
the
going
teaser
to-
image. So hopefully everyone has figured out exactly what is going on here.
What
But
is
if
going
not,
on here?
well then fortunately
They
we're going
die
to
that
tell you.
sword.
Let's listen.
So one probably important thing to note here is that this is an image from PvP. The third ability here, Artillery Slash, is actually only going to have 2 charges in PvP after the rework.
Oh.
And, well, wouldn't you know, it is in fact a rework of the Gun Saber.
What?
Blade Form. Among other things, there's some other things here, but we'll
the
talk about that
actual
soon.
key piece of this image is that the Bladesworn is standing fairly far away from its target. And
Yeah.
some, keen eyes may notice that the
Oh,
out of range
yeah.
indicator on the auto attack is not showing. Why would that
What?
be, Roy?
as well as the
Wait.
second ability. Interesting. And so that would, in fact, be because we have added a projectile attack to the 1 and the 2, basically to enable Bladesworn players to still do damage, still have some function while they are at range. In a lot of cases, especially in PvE encounters, you'll be while still obviously a very powerful build, you'll be forced to kind of have to move out of range of a boss, and so it
Chet's
does feel
losing
bad
it.
when you are locked
Interesting.
into
This
gun
is
saver,
kind of a
locked out
slay.
having a second weapon set, to be never really able to do anything at range a lot of the time. So now you will be able to. Something also that's probably important to note is that this won't be a damage increase, because Bladesworn already is doing quite a bit of damage, especially in PvE. If you stood at range the entire time and only auto attacked, and we'll obviously show this off, you would be doing less damage than if you were in melee range.
Now, does it
just
pierce?
Gun saver. Well, look at that. Whoa, Warrior changes. Gun saver
There
update
might also
and
be
some
PvP
Spellbreaker adjustments. Yeah, we're not only doing Bladesworn changes for this patch, but these are going to be the specific changes here for Bladesworn, and then we'll go into game in just a second and actually show those off if you want to.
Yeah, so really the
so
idea
each
behind
melee
this
attack
change
is a
to
double
Bladesworn
hit.
is that
Yeah.
as a Bladesworn, gun saver
Oh, yeah, of course.
one of your weapons, and the trade-off for the mechanic.
Interesting.
For the elite spec,
That's
It's not just a
very
projectile?
interesting.
so you have one weapon and
No.
a gun saber.
I guess that makes sense.
Because of that, we want to make sure that gun saber is kind of a more.
Are the projectiles reflectable? So even if you're melee
Yeah,
and you're
it's
doing melee
projectile.
attacks, you still get reflected projectiles
That'd
at
be
you?
funny.
Yeah.
I hope so.
So adding the
That should be the
of crowd control onto the
word.
melee skill. That's the rework that Roy.
trade.
Where now artillery slash is going to consume all ammo.
Okay.
Similar to how like the pistol 5 skill works, and then it will get enhanced.
Okay, I like
bonuses
this.
based off how much ammo you spend.
Huge.
If you only spend 1 ammo, it's basically going to be the same as it is right now.
He's like
Definitely
Angie.
leaning into
Sam,
that gun
Nice.
saber, that gun aspect.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's very,
And
yeah, it's
if
cute.
you
Well, that-
spend 2 ammo,
yeah.
it's going to now
Actually
fade.
makes sense now. Like before, it just seemed a bit
If you
random. I
spend
don't know.
3 ammo, it will also stun.
That's good.
And we felt that the
Oh, damage
kind of
increase
power
per ammo
upgrade
spent.
between the daze and the stun wasn't necessarily that important in PvE or in PvP rather. We wanted to just have the daze component. We didn't want to have the stun that now deals damage. Didn't worry about that. Having the feels bad cases.
Oh, and it dazes.
Actually spending 3 charges and dealing way less damage. So we're just capping it at 2. Get to 2 charges, get the daze. It's a 2-second daze in competitive, 1-second daze in PvE, because the stun in PvE is actually a 2-second duration. So that's just going to give.
That'll be fun in raids though,
crowd
won't it?
control options.
You can actually play a little bit more range now. You're not just like, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Instanced content, it's a lot more usable now.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Rework for a little while as well. It's just something we held off on, kind of throughout the dominance of Blades.
Obviously, you're doing most of your damage from the slash anyway, but
the tactical reload change.
Interesting.
Blade scorn skills only in the much healthier and fair, balanceable nature of that skill. Kind of significantly affected Bladesworn in those modes, which makes sense because it's just a lot weaker overall. But now we can go back, we can make all of the gun saber skills that much more exciting. Tactical reload gonna play into those as well. So you'll get the cooldown, get 1 ammo on to artillery slash, pop the elite. That's also now gonna be a daze. Another minor update here that may not have been seen on the stream yet. The 4 skill, Cyclone Trigger, this is going to now grant you Aegis on activation. So this is going to, the idea is that it's a projectile block, but now will also block a single incoming attack.
the 20-second recharge, Aegis, that's pretty good.
Block all attacks for the duration. Maybe not the healthiest or the safest idea.
Yeah.
Keeping it with Aegis makes it a lot more skill intensive. Block the key ability, block the.
Yeah, Aegis is a kind of a grab bag of like can be absolutely game changing, but also totally useless.
Well, in PvP it's useful if you're using it properly. But I mean, I feel like a lot of Bladesworns just kind of spam all their ammo abilities.
This will all be on the forums if you want to read over them and don't have quite as much time as you'd like to do here. But we are going to move on. Oh my goodness, our cameras are actually covering this last change, so we'll have to read that out. But
wow, who made these slides?
I don't know. That would
reading Rainbow.
Might have been you.
Might have been me. But we are going to have quite a few changes here for Warrior, just kind of core Warrior. A couple of them are going to be aimed a little bit more at
Yay, Warrior's
Spellbreaker
getting
and
more
PvP.
barrier.
As again, we mentioned earlier on the initial slide that we're focusing a little bit on some Spellbreaker adjustments for competitive modes for PvP. So a couple of these core changes are going to be focused on that.
Dolly, I seen
a
it
lot of
heals
them
you
are just
when?
looking at various warrior changes.
Was that recently?
When
some
you
mace-
activate the
some mace
ability, it
adjustments,
heals you.
Counterblow.
That's
a
its
little
signet
cooldown in
active.
competitive modes.
When did they
the
add
baseline
that?
Pummel Bash is going
It's
to
been
grant
like that
barrier
forever.
if it strikes an enemy while they're using a
No.
skill.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of
Dolly
to
X ain't
try
it,
and
the one
make
that gives
mace feel a little
stability.
bit better to use, a little bit more defensive.
heals you.
Sort of focus on that sort of
Okay.
defensive-ish.
been a
I think
while.
style
it.
that mace
I think
has.
it breaks your stun and heals you, and maybe gives you a stack of stability. I'm not sure.
No, it used to be
yeah, a
10
couple of
stacks
updates
stability.
here.
I'm not sure,
Savage
but I
Leap,
know
just a
the
little bit of
healing's been
damage
there for a
bump in
while. I
competitive
think.
modes, that is another change that
Yeah,
kind of
possibly.
got hit pretty hard, and Mainhand Sword. Part of the reason why Mainhand
I'ma look it
Sword
up.
isn't quite as good as it used to be.
I'm gonna guess
nice
it's
note
been
here
2
for Final
years.
Thrust
That's my
is
guess.
That a portion of the bleeding is now going to be always applied, and this is kind of mirroring the power damage component of the skill, where you do about 50% max damage if the target is above half, and 100% of your max damage if the target is under half. Currently, all the bleeding happens if they're under half. Now it will be a similar case where you'll inflict, 3 bleed
It's
stacks all
been-
the time, regardless of your opponent's health.
That was
And if they are
implemented
under
in
half, you'll then get
2018.
Full 6-stack.
So 5 years.
Absolutely. And then just focusing on a couple of
It all blends
It's been a
together
while.
these days.
It's been a while.
Blends
Typically
together.
don't really see being taken on Warrior very much. So do like Signet, Balance Stance, Signet of Stamina, Frenzy. Just lowering some of the cooldowns. Making those skills seem a little bit more attractive to use. And also a couple of PvP focused changes there. But then there at the bottom, we've got, again, these are kind of focused a little bit on bringing the power level of the Spellbreaker build that we've seen PvP down. So Banner of Defense is going to have a cooldown increase. If your Splo also will have a bit of a cooldown increase. And we're lowering the healing on Adrenal Health there in PvP as well. And then I'll quickly just...
I don't know. It's
Cameras-
like,
Hold on.
Oh,
Hold on.
okay.
Some people may have figured out this change. This is actually the real teaser image of the stream.
Yeah.
What's this?
I did
bottom
this on
thing?
purpose, obviously.
Completely unintentional, but it's kind of.
It was on purpose.
It looks like no, not important. Just hide the cams. Yeah, go for it.
reduce quick.
Martial cadence.
Where are those voices coming
Oh.
3 to 2. There you go.
Oh no.
This is obviously a nod to kind of the potential of DPS Bladesworn's ability to output quickness. If you say put 4 Bladesworns in your party, you may be able to
I
output
see.
full quickness uptime, which is generally something we.
So now you need a
found
dedicated, I've got
Especially
good
because,
duration.
even while taking
situation.
that trait, you're still doing
I guess.
tons.
But also
more
you'd
than,
have to
more than
stack
enough damage
4
on
Blade Sworn.
So,
I
you know,
like,
Kevin,
like-
I like
felt as
how
though you're getting a bit too
I like
quick
how
on
for
those
Renegade
easily.
they
So we are,
increase the duration
again, kind
of
focusing on that Blade Sworn, but just in
alacrity
general lowering that
on
ability
the
to
orders from
output
above
those there.
because they want to give people more options in gearing and not have to go full
and
into
Berserker
whatever.
specific
And then
changes
they
that we will, I
reduce
believe, go back
the
again
duration of
Yeah.
quickness on this
Berserker stuff,
because
which
they're
is
like,
pretty fun, but
no,
we'll
no,
obviously,
no,
You
not
might
like
have
that.
to stack
show that up on
4
Twitter.
Blade Sworn.
Don't do that.
Yeah, so
So now
running
people
through a
are
few
just gonna
things
stack
here.
more
On the PvP side, we're bumping up the
renegades
damage a little bit. We see
instead of
Archfire getting
a-
power increase. Thundering Leap cooldown coming down significantly in PvE, 25 to 15, 20 to 15 in competitive. So we're seeing a slight shave to the damage and the Berserk duration increase on that skill in PvE just because the cooldown is going to be that much lower. But it also is going to give you Aegis, so this is kind of a similar idea behind Cyclone Trigger, where it's instead of putting a full evade or a full block on this type of ability, it's just a lot. It feels a lot better to have that more like skill-based single shot Aegis as the defensive component. And as we're looking to kind of bring up
Sundering Leap
Berserker's
gives
defensive capabilities
Aegis
in
on
the competitive
activation.
modes a little bit, Sundering Leap is kind of one of those options.
Hmm.
for
Why?
Berserker. And then obviously the
I thought Aegis was more of
cooldown
a
reduction
Micro Guardian
on
thing as well.
What was that? Sorry, say that
What?
again.
I'm sorry, what was that, Jebro? Excuse me?
Shattering Blow.
What did you call me?
It's been a while since I played Shattering Blow.
Sphinx
Obviously,
says
the
what?
block skill on Berserker. Slightly lower cooldown as
Sorry.
once again.
Okay, wait, I'm kind of okay with this because no one
So,
really.
Roy's
I don't think
showing
people
off
would
some of
take
this
Sundering
stuff.
Leap often.
I
one of the
use
coolest
it for
changes on
fun
this list is going to be
sometimes.
I use it actually a lot. I really like the ability,
So this
but
is a Grandmaster
Yeah.
trait that's gotten a full rework because
Wait,
it's
what?
kind of intended to be the more defensive focused Berserker Grandmaster trait, and it's just not really that great. It's not very exciting. Even when it is great, it's like, okay, I've increased toughness in Berserk mode.
Oh,
Great.
that's interesting.
That's
So
fine.
this is an opportunity to do something
I wanna
maybe a
try
little bit
that.
crazy.
Trade out a little bit.
And the way this trait works now is that
That looks like fun.
So it triggers-
Stability and endurance when you enter
oh.
Berserk mode. It
Wait.
will now also cause any trait that triggers on entering Berserk mode to
Also
trigger
exit.
on exiting.
So you're gonna get Blood Reckoning twice,
this
and
And you could
has some
exit Berserk
immune
mode earlier.
potential as
and
well, because
stun
you're gonna be getting
break,
swiftness,
and immune to
quickness, and
damage
super
for like
pain.
2
It
or
says
3
you
seconds.
could you could
But you're
purposefully
also
exit
going to be
Berserk mode
retriggering,
whenever you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
You know, Dead or Alive retriggering, Feel No Pain, these defensive
So you
elements
could be
that is
hella
going to
bunkery
potentially
and
give
like
you a
super
little bit
tank.
more
That
staying
looks
power
like
once
it could
Berserk
be
mode
very
ends, versus
fun
the
to use,
apple
actually,
filter
that
between
trait.
your Berserk mode ending and the next time you can enter Berserk mode.
Whoa,
That's true.
it's
We
very
haven't seen
strange.
Mesmer either.
Really powerful effect.
What is going on?
I was just thinking,
Showing
like,
it
Mesmer
off,
even
it is on
be
the
able.
tooltip.
Oh, it is on the tooltip. Excuse me.
Reminder text.
That Cal, yeah.
Maybe they have
is
such
that you
massive
now are
changes that
able
they're
to
leaving
exit
them to the
Berserk mode
end.
on demand,
Maybe.
which obviously is not something you
Or
can do.
maybe
obviously,
they're
Rook and I
like-
over here just being like,
You're in
well,
Berserk mode, so you can
screw
trigger
Guardian, I guess.
all of those
I mean, I
on-
guess we'll
on
die. That's
trigger
fine.
on
No.
a-
They just eject them from the
Yes.
on demand
Rook
while you're
is
in
there in her
So
room that
obviously,
is
you know,
literally
just the
colored
effects
like
themselves are
Guardians
gonna
and
be strong,
Mesmers.
but having the ability to
Yeah,
Crying
that's
about
when you want to activate
no
those
Guardians and
abilities.
Mesmers in this patch.
Yeah, Guardian's one of the ones I play the most as well. I always
When you take this
Guardian, Necro, and NG
Kind of a nod to
are big ones.
Same. Guardian Necro for me too.
getting
Yeah.
stability or getting
Right.
uh,
And
incoming damage
NG.
action. You want it when you want it. And
Guardian Necro, same. Yeah.
No!
15 seconds or add some Berserk extension on there as well to get that effect.
Ooh, Blood Reckoning
And
duration increased.
That's not always going to line up with what you
Where?
necessarily want.
Dead or
And
alive.
So you're obviously going to have some trade-off there.
Oh,
You're gonna
yeah.
exit Berserk mode slowly in order to re-trigger those effects.
So you
whenever
could
want.
continuously get Dead or
And,
Alive
kind of an
by
important
going in
note
and
is
out.
that
Sick.
Feel
Ooh, that's pretty
Pain
great.
will not stun
I
break
actually like that because
on the way
I
out.
didn't get a lot
It
of
will
use out of this
only
trait because
stun
Blood
break
Reckoning is
and
very
enter Berserk mode.
conditional. You have to
Adjusted
get
the
damage
wording
out to get any use
of
out of
that
this
trait
ability.
to communicate that a little bit more explicitly. It will only stun break.
Be very
on
interesting to
on
use now.
exit. It is
There's been a lot of attention on Warrior in the past like 5 balance patches.
I mean, Warrior kind of needed it though, honestly. Like we talked about their. I think Warrior's been in such a weird place, and it's had a lot of systems and things that maybe just felt kind of outdated. Not that it's like bad or anything, but I think it's one of those particular classes that has just shown its age in a lot of ways, and like I think just needed some more updates and some changes and things over time.
Now it's engineer. Change everything. Utilities. Get rid of turrets. Please,
Look at
God.
this change to Breaching Strike.
I know, that's what I was laughing about. Reduce bonus damage from 50% to 5%.
Apparently
Damn.
50% was a mistake. We will- Let's
In
just-
competitive. In PvE, it actually feels really nice.
But this is honestly
counter decides that you have successfully
such a useless trait now in PvP in Warriors World.
Skill.
What's the point of it? Like, just
It's your it's your F1 ability, so it actually does destroys boons. And
Yes.
what's the point?
I mean,
Oh, right, because the
the
damage is just too much.
5%.
Okay.
Honestly, you might as well just gotten rid of the 50% in totality.
Yeah.
Probably much too easy.
Maybe
to
10%. I think 10% would
It's
have
got to
felt
be at
fine.
least 10%.
Yeah,
I
because
think
any
remove-
like
I think-
percentage change that's below 10% is like nothing.
Do its thing, I guess, for now. Where
I guess it depends
throw a
if
fire
it's
field on
Zerg
the
or
ground
not.
and You get all your triggers, but full counter is
It's
going to
Spellbreaker.
demand that you hit somebody with this ability.
I
if
mean,
you're on Zerker gear.
stats.
Yeah, yeah. See, Berserker.
It doesn't go well.
They had an interesting choice in Heart of Thorns.
That is a viable way to prevent Spellbreaker sustain from being at the level that it is. And obviously we nerfed Adrenal Health a little bit in patch 2, but just introducing, kind of fixing this
Yeah, that
level
Eternal
of
Champion change is very interesting.
Kind of like it.
Another
Me
thing
too.
that we
Yeah.
wanted to do with Spellbreaker's performance.
Absolutely.
Does
Now,
Berserker
before we
need,
move on
like,
to the
that
next slide, I
much
think that is it for the
defense?
Warrior changes, unless I'm just forgetting something.
Yeah.
Which means we can now reveal the second portion.
Second portion.
Which is pretty exciting.
Guardian?
Yeah, no.
Guardian
Mesmer?
and Mesmer?
I love how we always make a big deal about this, but it's like,
I mean, they did have a massive firebrand, so I was expecting
How many people
some
got it? Raise your
firebrand
hand.
changes.
Actually, I didn't get it, so I can't raise my hand.
Oh, this is
But
going to be the
yes.
entire podcast.
Go ahead and talk about it.
It's a good thing we didn't do it,
now
Rich.
the back of the image, and I guess we probably should have thrown this image in again, but there is an animation going on from a Mesmer.
Ooh.
So
Oh.
people who may have recognized it would have known that that was an old Mantra, I think,
mantras. Are they bringing mantras back?
And we are in fact reworking
mantra
mantras.
Again?
Something important to note here is this is going
What?
to
No,
affect
I've been wanting
mantras
this
as well,
for quite a
which
while.
We will of course touch upon when we go to the Guardian section. But yes, mantras are.
Oh
going to be
yeah,
removed from Mesmer. We've
that's
also got some
why.
shielding
That's
ability improvements,
why.
as well as
Oh,
I think
it
Tom
makes
mentioned this earlier.
sense.
He did spoil it. Some group
If you are new to the
updates,
stream, mantras are
updates there
used
for
by
it. But
Mesmers and also
And
Guardians,
Guardians.
which
Let's
is
talk
why
about
they've
mantras a
left
little
them
bit,
toward the end, because they are
mantras,
similar
maybe about
to
a
each
year and a
other
half ago,
in that
we
respect.
reworked mantras to
listen.
very more
Right,
of
let's listen.
this purely ammo based. We basically removed the casting necessity,
Yeah.
the pre-casting necessity of mantras. And we made a big post about this. There were a few reasons that were given as to why this change was made. And we've kind of seen the effects of this change and how it's impacted the gameplay depth of mantras, how it's affected the identity of mantras. And fundamentally, it's just not really a mantra anymore. And we feel like a lot was lost in the previous rework. So for this update, we went back and we thought about it. We looked at the reasons. Why did we do this in the first place? Are there other ways we can solve these problems? And we have a similar section on the update notes this time that talks specifically about the mantra changes. But I'll try to just cover everything real quickly here instead of taking 10 minutes like I did in the rehearsal. Basically, the first thing that we're trying to solve is that for Firebrand mantras, it feels really, really, really bad to have to recast all your mantras when you respawn or when you GG or when you change maps, and that is 100% true.
However,
and something that we talked about at the time and something that we decided not to do was, well, what if we just flipped over Firebrand mantras in PvE? If you're out of combat, if the skill's not on cooldown, why should we require players to cast this? Because realistically, it's just a waste of time. And having this cast time is still important in competitive modes, having the kind of the counterplay and the gameplay of there is a risk to using mantras and using the final charge and having that skill come back and having to cast it potentially in a combat situation. That's really important. But in PD, it doesn't really matter. So that is going to be true for Firebrand mantras. Mesmer mantras are a little bit different because they do have the initial cast bonus. And essentially the reason why we made this change before was because Firebrand mantras specifically felt really bad to recast. So that's no longer going to be an issue in PvE. If Ro is in a PvE map, maybe he'll show it off once we actually get to the Firebrand section. But you will see
going back to old Firebrand mantras?
Automatically flip over as they're coming off cooldown.
I mean, casting.
The other thing that we were trying to solve from the initial mantra change is that
to what it was before.
Gameplay pattern usually ended up just being, well, I just want to camp my ammo recharge. There's no reason
like
to
you
use the final
could
charge.
on
no
Mesmer
reason
you
to
had
do the
reflex
on-cast
during
effect.
casts,
And
etc. Right?
That
I remember.
generally true,
Was it
but that is much
reflex?
more of a balance problem. That is something that we can solve in that iteration of mantras. And so we've gone back and we've kind of retuned some of these effects on the Mesmer mantras, adjusted some of these effects on the Firebrand final charges, just to create a larger decision point and potentially create some variable gameplay for how these skills are going to play. And it's not the case that we necessarily want it to always be perfect. We don't want to go
interested if they did
the
like
other side of the spectrum of,
you can pick
well, now
whether or
just
not they
spam through your
casted or
mantra because you
instant,
want the
and
final
depending
charge, you
on
want
which
the
one they were,
initial
they would
cast
be
time
different
bonus.
effects.
We want it to still be a decision point. Finding the right balance is going to be probably something that takes, a little bit of iteration. But we're very confident that this is a solvable problem with this version of mantras. And so between that and the auto-charging component of Firebrand mantras, we felt pretty comfortable essentially reverting the
I need to
mantra
see
effect
Firebrand.
So they
because,
basically
as I
just
said,
reverted
the
it
start of this
back.
ramble is that we very much lost a lot of the identity and the gameplay depth of this skill type, and it didn't necessarily feel great on the gameplay side. So we've revisited that, brought the mantras back. There's some cool stuff going on. Like the Mesmer mantras now all have an AoE component on the initial cast
that's
time.
cool.
okay.
So
Cool.
mantra
On the
focus recovery
cast
going to
time.
do a little bit of AoE healing. Concentration now going to give stability and Aegis to yourself and nearby allies as well.
I like that.
Distraction staying the same. That was the one that's kind of the coolest and the most powerful, is that diversion recharge. Mantra of Pain now going to give some AoE might. That's one of the options that potentially helps with chrono might sharing, but that isn't the only thing. We'll see a bit more on some of the other slides. And then Mantra of Resolve is going to still full cleanse yourself. That's the old effect, and also do a smaller cleanse for allies. On that
Interesting. I like that.
All right. A lot of
So
lot of mantra talk.
Feel free to read the whole spiel again in the update notes once you get there, but I hope that I covered everything.
I'd say so.
Why don't you take it away for a little bit, Roy, and talk about some other Mesmer changes?
Yeah, you take a load off there. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Well, I mean, we'll all look at you while you drink
Grant
water. But
ages to nearby
either way,
allies on manipulations.
so that is going to be the monster changes there for Mesmer. Again, we'll look at the specific changes there for Firebrand when we get to the Guardian slides. But moving on from that, master manipulation
time warp
is
now
no
also
longer
grants
going to
super
use the
speed.
recharge manipulation skills
And
same thing
inflicts
that we've
chill.
done, previously. We're also going to be changing
didn't
the
it do-
super speed
did
that
it do
manipulation
super
used
speed
to grant
before?
to Aegis
No.
now. And there's
I
specific
used
Or
reasons.
it
if you were
years
traded, if
ago.
you were traded,
Is the very
it would.
bottom change on
Alright.
this page, which is that Protected Phantasm is now going to be replaced by Temporal Enchanter, which
Super
previously was a
speed and
Grandmaster skill in the
quickness.
straight line. It was removed, and basically what it does here again is what it used to do, which is that it granted super speed and resistance to allies, and it also increased glamour durations by 1
Okay, I
second,
like that.
which is not the same duration it used to increase
I'm
them by. It used
excited.
to
I
increase
miss
them by
Temporal
at least 2
Enchanter.
seconds, I believe.
Yeah.
We're going to be lowering this a little bit. Oh, well, look at that. We're going to be lowering that in response to it now being a master trait instead of a grandmaster trait. But that trait is coming back. Since that is also going to be granting super speed, we felt that we wanted to give master manipulation a little bit of a different effect so that you weren't taking 2 different super speed traits. Aegis also something very powerful effect to have. Especially if you're considering sort of competing. We've seen a lot of competition with Guardian, Firebrand, and World versus World. One thing that Mesmer, Chronomancer doesn't have, to the same effect that Guardian does, is being able to grant Aegis. So now with this trait, it does. We felt it kind of, gave a couple more options to Mesmer. In that vein, of course, though,
I know,
back
you
to
bet
the,
everyone.
removing the
Yeah.
recharge reduction from this trait.
I think the
we've
special
lowered the
value
cooldown
class
from a
now
couple of
everyone
skills.
can do.
Mimic's
Cool.
going to be lowered. Mirror is going to be lowered. Massive
stuff.
Viz is going to be lowered. The couple of those cooldowns are going to have some splits. Time Warp, we also decided to take a look at. Not only are we lowering the cooldown in competitive mode, we're also giving it a little bit of an extra effect. We felt that
I missed
it's competing
that.
with some of the most powerful elite
missed
skills
that
in the
bit,
game
actually.
throughout the various
Holy
Mesmer
shit.
specs.
Oh, for Time Warp?
And so
The
now,
cooldown.
in addition to granting
Oh, yeah.
quickness,
Oh my god, I saw the
in
first bit and I was like,
addition to
just
inflicting
stop
slow on
talking.
enemies,
Just
it'll
stop
also
reading.
inflict chill,
That's
which really feels
almost
thematic
half.
to the skill. And hopefully,
okay.
those extra effects make the skill feel a lot better to play with,
Wait, super
especially in
speed
competitive
as
mode
well.
with now the lower
And
cooldown.
chill.
Then again, a couple of other changes.
So
for
it's
competitive
chill
mode, specifically
and slow
lower
on
cooldowns
enemies,
on some skills we don't really
quickness
see being
and
taken
super
very often,
speed on
Yes.
allies on a
images,
75-second
and then the
cooldown.
bonus damage from EOTS.
In a
that's a big
massive area.
Yeah,
5%.
so
Yeah.
that's like the point, almost the point mid of like FOFA. Yeah.
Really
Are
cool
you
stuff.
good? Did you drink enough
I'm
water?
I'm pretty
And
excited
imagine
for
like running
temporal-
that with like a Necro, like a Reaper or something
It's
as
kind of
well.
the same
Can you
vein for
imagine?
Revenant,
Like Time Warp and like
We're like, this is a pretty cool trait, and,
the
like,
shout, the
really
elite shout together.
establish some really
That'd be sick actually, that'd be fun.
parameters. Obviously, resistance used to be a lot more.
I'm
powerful.
excited for Temporal
Time,
Enchanter and
four builds that are focused on like the null fields. And
the
all
null
the
field.
glamours.
He just said it. Because you
Uh,
could really be a really
Great. So
good
finding an opportunity
build
bring
to
it back
cleanse and remove
was-
conditions. And
Yeah.
having that
Mm.
resistance and super
And
speed and take a
Protected Phantasm
mantra or
was
something
stood
for
out
extra
as
heal,
the
you could maybe
weakest
start to run a more supportive
never
healing
used
Mesmer of
trait.
some
I
kind.
would like
So
to.
that is the
Like,
natural
Mesmer
stuff.
was the
You wanna
first
replace
class I
your
played
grandmaster
Guild Wars
traits
to, and I
by
fell off of
manipulation.
it
We do want to see
for
temporal
different
filter
various reasons.
and maybe if it's still not quite powerful enough, we
I'd
might
like to
bump
play that.
decoration back up again.
Chronomancer was like
See
that
how
tank, and
things
I just didn't
So yeah, cool stuff. Do you want to move on to the
dunno.
chrono slide?
didn't have the
I believe is
best time with
Absolutely,
that.
we can. Just wanted to show off Time Warp a little bit because it's pretty
yeah.
fun. But yeah, Chronomancer and Virtuoso. So we've got the changes for both those here.
Oh,
on
it's
this
just
page.
a
Oh,
quick
this is
spirit
kinda
line
nice.
for Virtuoso. So we can talk about that real quick. Psychic
Pretty
Riposte,
important one, though.
obviously intended to make your full shatter unblockable. Not always the case. This is pretty noticeable, especially on like the block that just lasts. The damaging component lasts a lot longer than the cast time does. And the bug here was that anytime the cast time of your shatter ended is when it determined that your shatter shouldn't be unblockable anymore, which obviously isn't correct. Now it's going to track correctly that you are still throwing out skills that are part of a shatter, and those will be unblockable. Moving into the chrono stuff, we have a couple of nice usability improvements here. Obviously on Shield 4, they're now going to immediately summon the Phantasm when blocking an attack. And this is kind of a nod to PvE. But obviously the value here is game-wide, but it's kind of a nod to PvE where you don't necessarily want to have to sit there channeling the whole block in order to get the Phantasm. So in the case that you actually block an attack, that Phantasm will spawn immediately.
Okay.
You can cancel a skill, Deja Vu, do the same thing again, get your Phantasms, and get back to casting the skills you actually want to. In the event that you don't manage to block an attack, because that's either not always going to be a gameplay situation you're in, but you still want the Phantasm, that Phantasm still will
In
spawn
World
at the end
v
of the cast
World, you're
time,
just gonna
but it will not
see
double.
like
If
time
you
warps
summon a
everywhere.
Phantasm that's blocked,
You're just gonna
it will not
see
summon
time warp, time warp, time warp, time warp. It's gonna be a bit of a nightmare visually.
Upgrade to Echo Memory.
I bet they end up
Upgrade
changing
to
the
Titan Time.
graphic of
We have
that.
a nice little usability improvement here as well. Might stacks bumped up. That's part of our, bigger look at Chrono Might stacks. But also, this is trying to fix an edge case of. There's basically an edge case where if you throw out Tides of Time, the skill goes on cooldown, then you enter Continuum Shift and then catch the returning wave. You get the cooldown reduction from the catching the wave, but by the time C Shift ends, it basically timestamped your cooldown at the higher number and rolls you back to basically like 32.
Isn't that how it should have always been,
And
though?
mechanically, that is how it is intended to work, but it realistically isn't the way we want it to work because it's a pretty big feels bad.
What do you mean it's a pretty big
Defeats
feels
the
bad?
purpose of catching
It's a
the
skill
waves.
issue. Get better.
Oh, damn,
I don't
Creed!
like it.
Nailed it down.
This
You
skill
know,
will
like,
now remember
what?
that you
That's
caught
so
it, and
weird.
then when Continuum Shift
I mean,
ends, it will
it's not
refund you
bad
that
of a
cooldown
change,
once
but it's like, okay.
Yeah,
And
it is
then
weird. It is
I'll
weird
let you
that
drink some water. Just
it's
quickly.
intended to be that way, and they're purposefully making it the way it's not intended to be, just because it's.
Yeah, in those very niche scenarios where you accidentally messed up, I don't know. It just feels like an unnecessary, like, we're going to still reward you for whatever you do.
A little bit more.
Okay.
competitive
You
in
cast a skill. It should
various
make
game
things
modes.
better, right?
So, well, action is now going to grant
Yes.
Fury to allies in its final pulse in addition to super speed, while senility will now daze enemies, on its final pulse in addition to removing boons. So, a couple of different types of effects. Hopefully, again, just making
Yeah,
those
they're
skills
not-
seem a little bit more.
Wow,
They're not
really
moderating this.
Not moderating this at all.
I know, there's been a lot of really hateful comments. There's people like, I mean, I've reported multiple people.
Yeah, no one cares about the Guardian changes. Let's go.
I'm gonna mention
Already
this in the chat as well.
Oh yeah, we gotta run. We gotta
If
go.
we were, no, of course, we'll talk about Guardian.
Guardian!
Okay.
Okay, I need to see these mantras because
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't believe
I don't know,
spoiled this. Mantras are
guys.
being reworked on Guardian.
We'll
We've
see.
already gone through the whole spiel with it, really, mostly. Something that I think is pretty important to note here is that previously we actually removed a stack on the elite skill there, Mental Liberation for Guardian for Firebrand.
We're going to
These are
Core
not actually
Guardian.
Firebrand skills. Excuse me.
Hey.
We'll hold off on that for a second.
Wait, we already made
Probably.
this.
Who knows? We can keep making it because I, clearly just suck. But
All right.
we removed one of the stacks on the elite skill or the elite mantra for Firebrand, and we felt that it was a little bit too powerful, a little bit too accessible. However, going back to the old version of mantras, we wanted to put one of those put the old version with all three stacks back. We felt that having
Thank you.
basically one use of the skill before you would have to choose between either holding it to get that ammo back or put it on full cooldown was going to be a little bit too
That'd be
punishing.
rough.
So it is going back to 3 stacks. However, we are going to, of course, keep an eye on that because it is a very strong effect. It is something that really sets Firebrand apart
Don't
from a
keep
lot of
an eye on
other
it. It's fine.
support options or just other classes in general.
It's
And so if that does seem like it is still an issue
Fine.
where it was previously, we may revisit and look at that again. But I think it's probably a pretty important note, just because going back to the old version, being at 2 stacks would probably feel pretty bad to play with, at least at the start. But
sure.
on top of course, the mantra
Sounds like
rework,
we have some other changes to talk about first.
we've got some other
before
changes to
we
talk
get
about.
into the Firebrand stuff.
We've
There
got
is one other note. We'll leave it hanging for the kind of final charge aspect of the Firebrand mantras. We've had a little bit additional kind of a trait
Effect.
interaction, maybe. Maybe some people will. We touched up weighty terms a little bit.
Yeah, weighty
Maybe a little bit more
terms.
exciting.
I thought we
But
were
we'll
going
get
to
to
wait.
that later. We'll get to that later.
Okay. I
Talk about the other Guardian changes, Roy. I know there's some in here that you're really excited about.
there are,
killing
but
me.
yes, we got
There's
some
actually some that I'm really excited about too.
PvE updates, Guardian main cal, for power DPS options in
I
for
made
Guardian,
every class.
and also some Firebrand adjustments for PvP specifically. So we got obviously here are mostly the PvE changes, again aimed at trying to make DPS Guardian, power DPS
stuff.
Guardian builds feel a little bit better. We used to see a lot of them
These
taken
always
in
get
PvE.
posted
We
afterwards
mostly
to
only
the,
see
like,
conditioned
official
Firebrand
blog
builds
stuff,
being
don't they?
taken
Yes.
currently.
Yeah.
And so trying to bump up the power damage that Guardian can put out. is
Sure,
a
but
little
now
bit
you
of a goal
reduce-
here. Hopefully make these builds seem a little bit better to take in PvE. So right hand strength is
The
no longer
cooldown-
going to
Oh, okay,
reduce
they
the
at least did
charge
that
of main
for the
hand
two
sword skills.
things.
Then we bumped up the power coefficients of several of these skills. Strike, Ventral Strike,
Okay,
Wrathful
sword.
Strike, Symbol Resolution, Sword Wave. Symbol of Blades is also getting that, as well as reducing the recharge on Symbol of Blades from 10
Symbol
to
of
8,
Blades will now be
game-wide,
one of the only
reducing the
symbols that
cooldown
has a
of defense from
baseline
15 to 12
lower
seconds, and right
symbol
judgment
cooldown
buff
other
as
than the
well.
hammer. Because all symbols have like a 10-second
Pretty much all
cooldown
we
or
need to talk
so.
about that one.
Yeah, but
Makes
it's the
sense to
change
me.
in the reduced cooldowns, right? They're no longer.
Yeah.
Here are the probably
know,
most
I don't think you
exciting
needed to reduce
changes
it.
here for Guardian,
Just, like,
I would
bump
say.
the
I'm very
damage.
excited about them. Right at the top, Rolling Wrath is no longer going to reduce the user's speed,
that's fun.
which is going to feel absolutely amazing. I mean, it does feel
Roy's
amazing.
been playing with this internally. He messages me at least
Great
once a day.
sword,
He's like, man, I
if you
love
have
that we
super
removed
speed,
the removal
with
penalty
great
from
sword, you're gonna be like a zooming,
It's pretty
spinning
pretty
like
cool.
Beyblade.
Great
Well,
sword,
not quite
pretty
as
good,
fast
pretty good weapon
as,
for Guardian. It's you know,
Axe 5
feels
on
a little bit
Warrior,
bad to
but
be
yeah.
slow on the 2 skills, so now you won't be slow anymore. But then some hammer updates, which are going to very cool.
Beyblade
We'll show that
confirmed,
in
says
game as
chat.
well.
Oh, thank
Cal,
goodness.
Guardian is
can
finally
talk
getting
about those.
barrier.
Yay!
Yeah, so the
Yay!
Zealot Embrace, adding some barrier to this, that's obviously going to just solidify hammer a little bit more as like a more bruisery type weapon.
I like
Give you a
it.
little bit more
Yeah,
defense
okay.
as you are crowd
But I
controlling,
like
as
the
you are,
protection symbol
banishing
on the
and
auto
by deploying.
attack. They reduce the
Obviously, Zealot
cooldown on
Embrace
the.
will be able to
They
actually
reduce
give you the
the
barrier.
animation on it.
But then
Yeah.
So it'll be
pretty
faster
cool,
now.
Gloss over the cast time reduction to the
Don't
final
gloss
hit
over
for the
it.
I
auto
still
attack.
think it's weird that
It
the
was
hammer
very,
has a
very, very slow.
spammable
Now it's
symbol.
just very slow, but it does
Okay.
drop the protection symbol. So we're
I
keeping a
think they
close
could
eye
have
on
like
that
done
one.
the
That's
barrier
something
on the
that could
auto
easily be
attack
touched
and
up
then put the
again.
symbol on the second
But
ability and have the
kind of
second ability
the most
be a
exciting
lead
change
skill.
in my mind.
So you can actually like
is
chase down
the,
targets.
Change that we made to banish. Thank you. This is now going to apply a mark to anyone that it hits, and that mark is going to say the next time you use Mighty Blow on this target, you will first teleport to that target.
Oh, cute.
Or you should probably like spawn a moose or something that's not going to rubber band back to its spawn point to actually show
So
this
you can
off,
get
and
a
it's cool.
Will
Or you
Bender
can
for
hit the
Core
Guardian.
Guardian.
Go for it. So we, banish the
that's
Guardian.
Pretty cool.
Then we Mighty Blow, teleport in.
Oh,
and
this will be
then
really
do the
fun in
animation
PvP.
and
If
do
you
the
want to
attack.
isolate a target
So
and then
this
just
is
take him
going
out.
to make it so that you no longer need a wall, because historically, if you're going to banish someone, you need to banish them into a wall so that you can Mighty Blow because they won't be out of range. Now, if you banish someone, it will just teleport before doing the attack.
That's very
so
nice.
regardless of where you banish them, you can now teleport to them and secure that Mighty Blow. Very fun, very powerful. We're pretty excited to see how it plays, because it does add just a bit more flexibility to
I totally
Hammer
missed
Guard.
them.
You're not going to have the problem of like cording in with judges and then
What
banishing
happened?
and
Oh,
not
I'm
being
looking
able to
at-
follow up.
Banish
yeah,
will
that's
now
what I was
apply an
to
effect on whoever you banish.
always
Using
follow
your
up
second
their
ability will
banish, assuming it
automatically
hits.
teleport
Doesn't
you
hit
to the
anyone, it's
banished
not gonna play
target,
that
so you
mark.
can knock him out
And
and then just
notably, it will
immediately
Banish is
jump
like
on
one of
them.
my favorite
Teleport
abilities in the
to your
game.
marked
Like
target.
when Hammer
If
Guardian,
someone else
like
applies
back
a
in the
mark
day, I used
from
to do
banish,
like I
it'll
did a
banish
gameplay
them
video
all.
that had like 10k views because I just banished people everywhere. It was just like
Guardian
it
clearly
was
pretty
like
strong.
4. I remember
Oh.
just like shouting it and just loving that build so much. That's
I don't think anyone
sexy.
saw that. We're
Wow,
it happened.
that's a good one. I am very happy with the stream. That's made my day. Thanks, Roy.
Wow.
Glad to hear it.
Beyond that, looks like we have a slight change to unscathed contender. And this
Interesting.
is just trying to
A nerf.
normalize the damage a little bit. Obviously, it currently gives 20%. if
I
you
like
have
it.
Aegis. Having Aegis all the time, not realistic in most gameplay scenarios, and honestly pushes the damage capabilities a little bit too high in those cases where you have Aegis. So just normalizing a little bit, Aegis component's going to be 7%, and then you're going to have that Scholar Rune type effect where over 90% health, you will have 7% increased strike damage. All
Okay.
the time when you have unscathed.
Why even have the
Absolutely.
boon be Aegis? Why not
Moving
something
on
like
from Core
resolution or
Guardian updates,
protection?
We've got some
I don't know.
fun Dragon Hunter and Willbender changes.
Ooh, Dragon Hunter.
Test of Faith
Ooh.
in just PvP is going to have increased protection duration from 2 to 4 seconds. Already a very strong ability in World vs. World, so we wanted to make sure we weren't buffing it there. But
Light's
it's gonna get
Judgment is
little
a
bit of an increase
daze
there for
now?
PvP.
What was Light's Judgment
will
from?
Also now daze enemies in addition to its other effect on the first
I think
strike,
it is the
as well
trap
as having a lower
that
cooldown.
does like the
Oh.
reveal and the Vuln.
Okay.
And it's like the beams of light.
Resolve and Shield of Courage.
Oh,
These are all big fun
interesting.
changes, throughout
I
the
thought
game.
Dragon Hunter was
Fragments of
pretty good
Faith
already.
is just going to have a lower cooldown, pretty similar to other changes we've made on
In
other
PvP it
classes,
is.
other various skills, where the
For
cooldown's
sure.
going lower as well.
Wings of
as
Resolve
the
reduced
duration,
cooldown is
specifically
massive.
on the stability,
I love that.
In turn for that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
courage as well.
Pretty
That's
fun
massive.
note here is that Hunter's Determination is now going
What?
to cause all Guardian Elite skills to break stuns on activation.
Cool.
So that is
Which one's
obviously gonna be
Hunter's
pretty strong
Determination?
with a couple of the Guardian skills. Really focus, of course.
You
comes
guys
with
can look it
Find
up. I can't do it
since it is gonna be
because
Dragon
I've got
Hunter
all
trait,
screens like
Dragon's
currently
Ball,
taken up.
Is that the
we got,
Grandmaster?
the shout
It
elite,
is a
you
master
can use if
trait.
you want,
Grant boons
it isn't going to be something
and
What
cast
line?
Aegis fragments after using elite skill.
Oh, they got rid
just
of
in
that.
Dragon Hunter.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Firebrand and of course Heaven's
So
Palm,
now this is just going to be a
better. So it's
self
just
stun
obviously
break.
gonna be the Dragon Hunter
Okay.
skills and core Guardian skills.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Definitely really.
for any.
Maybe
kind
it's
of
a
weaker.
Misfire
maybe it's an
Wolf
AoE stun break for the shout.
will not now be a stun break with Hunter's Determination.
That would be
But
This
on a
is kind of
20-second cooldown
trying
to be a little
solidify
broken.
The more like defensive aspects of Dragon Hunter. We see this with like the virtue cooldowns coming down, and Hunter's Determination with this new powerful effect, really trying to give Dragon Hunter a bit more defense.
And of course, it's something that we'll keep an eye on.
Willbender Virtues no longer-
The active events of other Willbender Virtues.
But we felt that
No!
it was, in a
Wait,
pretty competitive
what?
slot.
That's pretty
Trade
huge.
line, and,
What?
it just isn't really being used after the 300 trait cooldown.
I don't know.
Wait, so you can just spam
We've got
these?
a
Yeah.
ICD,
I kind of
That's-
liked that you couldn't.
But it's the
I don't know.
decision making I thought
and
that
then
was so.
for
This
Willbender,
thing's gonna be
which is,
ridiculous in
a
PvP.
nice change here for Willbender
So now
is
you're
that
gonna,
the virtues
and if
don't
you,
remove
oh,
active
and
effects
if you
of
take
Willbender
the
virtues. So
Grandmaster one where
currently,
you
if
don't
have two
die
and
if you have
then
your
F1,
F3,
you will be
so now
only
you get your
having
F3, you don't die, you
And
deal
the other
damage.
Yeah.
No,
That is
people
a
don't.
huge buff.
People don't usually
You'll
take the
have both
F3 Grandmaster trade because it's
So
very
this,
punishing and it's very
should
difficult to
allow
get
But they might
enemies
do
out of
now.
it. But maybe they will
They might do
now.
now.
Playing with them,
Oh,
not feel bad
God.
about having to overwrite one.
Oh.
For that duration.
That's a huge buff.
But but isn't there a lot of changes in this where it just makes it the game a bit easier for a lot of people?
Yes.
maybe?
That's why, I mean,
It's
my
like-
most critical aspect of balance is like, we're not getting balance patches, we're just getting buff patches. For PvE, I would say. In PvP, they tend to take it a bit more
patches,
seriously.
Like over quality of life. It's
Yeah.
ease of life now. It's like, with balance.
This is kind of like the Firebrand stuff. Granted, Firebrand was a lot more extensive, but it's like
Yeah.
kind of taking away class identity and fantasy of like that decision making and
Oh yeah, the
putting
class
yourself
identity. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
like you're putting yourself in a
Solid.
different mindset when you're in a new elite specialization. But now it's like you're just gonna spam it like it's a core guardian, and it's going to be an empowered version of a core guardian.
Well, Pete, how many people have just got Aegis? Like Warrior and Mesmer just got a bunch more. Well, not a bunch more, but a bit more Aegis. And I'm like, well, like Guardian is the Aegis king. I would surely like Queen, whatever. Like, and yeah, it just seems weird.
Doing a little bit too much damage.
I don't
especially
know.
as your
This is
ability there.
this is a
on
pretty
Dragon Hunter,
big
which is,
change,
you know,
though.
a fairly
I mean,
common
there's still
class
more
to
things they
see.
should do with traits,
Alongside, of
but
course,
this
these
is still
other
pretty
Dragon Hunter
big.
buffs, we wanted to make sure that we were adjusting that damage that it's doing a little bit in a lot of these like, large scale
I have
fights. that we
varying
see in
feelings.
World versus World. So that will be coming
Oh,
down
thank you,
and we'll
really.
focus roll a little bit. And then we've got the Firebrand changes again. Obviously, just
hop
going.
into a PvE map actually, and we'll talk about this while you're changing maps. And
More powerful. How much more powerful?
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Because you can show
Now
off
require
the-
initial cast time for most. The final charge range is more powerful. Yeah, that would be interesting.
The weighty terms change that I alluded to previously.
No.
Back to trigger on final charge because now we have the final charge map.
Okay.
But also it is now going to grant a page, and the idea here was that
Oh.
we didn't necessarily want to
I
put it
don't
back to immobilized because that's such a. I mean, it's a powerful effect. It's kind of worthy
I still think they
of
have no idea what they're doing with
the
Firebrand.
I don't
final
know,
charge
man.
component of weighty turns, but at the same
Yeah.
time, with the new Firebrand functionality, with the kind of initiative style system.
Oh my god, someone used my emote.
How tomes work
They
now,
did.
having more avenues.
They
to
did, look at that.
introduce
Clip it,
things to the
I've never seen that in the
is
Geometry
potentially a very
channel.
interesting aspect.
Oh, it's
So now
like.
weighty terms is going to give you a page back when you use that final charge.
Do I have
Another
proof?
nice incentive to actually use that final charge in addition to the more powerful final
Gonna be an
effect.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, fam.
So Roy is
This
currently
isn't
in
from no.
PvE, and you can see
That's a
him
no for me
slogging the
again.
Mantra, and it immediately flips over. Very
Like,
cool.
what's the point of it then? It's
Well,
like,
I mean, it's okay. We needed more
That
ways to
and
get
longer.
pages back
Obviously, if you're
for
in combat, this is
rotational
what happens.
purposes
It's forwarded
in
when this skill is
non-competitive
not on
modes
cooldown,
in
and when you are
instance
out of combat,
content.
it will
Yes.
determine that it should
But
probably
I don't
on
know
a
if there's a way to
trait-
do it though.
over to its
on
active
this
version.
trait? Really? Like,
It's not good because
yeah.
not only does so you need to expend your final page, your final mantra in order to get an extra page.
Yeah.
So you can't use it in a rotation, because then you're gonna have to recharge your mantras in order to use it again.
Talked about Firebrand mantras like
So
8 times
it's-
already. I think we can probably
anyway.
move on from them.
Yeah,
here it
it's
is.
still gonna feel as
Final slide.
punishing.
Yeah.
I guess it's technically
I
more
guess
rewarding if you were in that
we definitely wanna
mindset.
buff
Like that's the
Firebrands
reason
PvP.
Firebrands didn't like it, because you'd never
This
use
is
your
kind of
third
a one-time
charge because you had such a long
versus
cooldown and cast time to it, so you wouldn't
And
ever like
Mantra
go
change
through
actually
that.
a big
Someone in
Because
chat, Firebrand is finally dead.
All the
Let's go.
Firebrand mantras are balanced around that final charge.
No.
You'll
Sorry,
have much,
Coop.
much weaker
You're
than
very-
the
you're very
initial
right,
ones, which
though.
are much weaker than the initial
It's just
starters.
like
And these are like
Gonna
key
be.
components of.
Oh, this is gonna actually
Exiting
affect.
Firebrand tome will now put the
PvP.
tome on a 0.5-second
part of the
cooldown.
mantra-
Okay.
Or with the mantra review work, that is going to help a little bit, but we also want to make some additional adjustments for Firebrand specifically. in
she's
PvP.
paid cost from
Try
2
to
to
bring
1.
it up to
Yo,
that
this
Firebrand.
is sad. I'm upset he's
First up,
spaghetti
though,
a little
couple of-
bit.
Oh, they've increased the
Not
heal
terrible.
pulse.
Changes for
Interesting.
Firebrand, in general,
They're
just
trying to
throughout
bring
the
it
game.
Doubled
back.
it almost.
Exit the Firebrand tome,
Yeah,
that
they're trying to bring
very
it back
quick
into
half-second
PvP.
Well, because
cooldown.
it's so
You saw it,
costly.
we heard
Like
from
Firebrand was already
that
pretty
they would
blech in
go into
PvP. It
tome,
was
use some
passable, but
skills,
it
I mean, they
was great.
wrecked it, but they were just like, we want it out
Yeah.
and gone, because so many people were
so
bored
similar
of it
to,
for
you know, some other
years.
interactions similar to that, like
But now
from
with the
like a
page
necro
system
shout
and,
type
you know,
deal,
the
now that
inability
you know
to
parts of the
do
game,
anything
now
other
you
than
have
what
a
you
small
are
ICD
specialized
on
in,
that
it's
tome,
like,
what
it's very
not
punishing
just
to
double
use those
tap again,
abilities.
going back in.
That stability
We've
stacking isn't bad.
now changed it so that Firebrand pages will be filled up upon respawning.
Is it gonna
So
be?
previously, you know,
It's a
lot
good
of
thing I
times
just
you might be
finished
in a
all
fight or
of
something,
my
and
world
versus
versus world
ability improvements, which
roaming for my final piece of
Yeah.
which might be a fight.
world
We
versus
were doing
world
that on Firebrand,
legendary
right?
armor.
Mhm.
Now I don't.
You don't have all your
Because that's gonna
players back, and that feels very
not
bad.
ruin, but it'll be
And
rough
so-
on my
but just
roaming
throughout
build
the
for
rest of the
sure.
You can
so.
run
anytime you
a
respawn,
Spectre
your
now.
Firebrand pages will be back up.
But I don't need
This
to
is just-
anymore. I'm just not
Basically,
going to.
you know,
Okay,
we've
fine.
talked a million times about Firebrand now being kind of using an initiative-based system, and this, you know, the example of the initiative system is Thief, and so having that similar behavior of being back to full pages on respawn is kind of the thought process there, just kind of normalizing that mechanic a little bit. In addition to just being, you know, feels great.
Absolutely. But yeah, running through the PvP changes real quick. Again, already a pretty good spec in World versus World and PvE. So just a couple of buffs here.
It should
for
give you more than one page
PvP.
back.
So we're lowering the
If
page
that's
costs
what you're gonna do with
on a
that
couple of these
trait with the
abilities.
weighty
It should do,
terms,
like,
Duration is
2.
going to go up
it should give at least 2. Yeah.
1 to 3 seconds.
Or have like, or just like have the elite mantra grant pages.
On Radiant Recovery for PvP, that's
Mm.
2 on
Like, have an ability, something where you can just more actively restore them, similar to Thief, like roll for initiative, where you can just use it to automatically get initiative.
the base
Yeah.
bonus heal,
Yeah.
as well as the
Anyway, I still maintain that there need to be more outlets to get more pages, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
You,
if this
you
is the
end
way
up
to
just
do it.
waiting around.
It's so punishing to use that last page.
Yeah, and also now the final mantra.
Yeah, it's really upsetting too because that's a trait I use in my build in World versus World, and I'm not going to use it
Everyone
anymore.
does.
It's.
I think there's a lot of interesting things with mantras, but
From 1 to 2. Again, just PvP.
we'll see.
Versus World, where you
Bruh.
already have a
I
Bruh.
could have just changed it, honestly. Changed it to something else. Survivability, skills, or something. Just,
I think-
I'm not sure why they had mantras.
I mentioned this in the forums and I got excited because I was like, oh, they're doing another rework, but we can maybe talk about this when we like settle, but
Making this
I
thing
have,
get that
I
many
have
changes.
thoughts about
Yeah,
mantras.
we can have those thoughts in a minute.
For now, of course. We will have some more in the
Right.
future.
Obviously, the point of this doing the preview, as always, is the notes are going to be going live.
Now,
pretty
the other
shortly after
problem
this.
is
Take a look, hop on the forums. read everything
they
and just-
reduced.
Let him
Sorry.
talk. Let him do
They-
the outro, and then we'll talk.
The idea is that,
Does that sound okay?
you know, if
Yeah.
something's missed the mark or something's
Because this is the big
additional
point.
looks
This is the big
ahead
point.
of the actual
Afterwards,
update,
this is the
that is
important part.
the overall goal of doing these previews is to get that feedback, and so
Yeah, the feedback.
like we
So
said,
you
we're out of
give
time
it
for now, but
respect
we
there will
always
be a
give
couple of things
feedback.
that come
Is it-
between now and the
It's always
update
like,
itself
is the
on
feedback ever listened
Valentine's Day.
to?
I mean, there were times.
Yes, thank you very much for
honestly, there
tuning in
were
and watching.
times when they did backtrack on a
Thank you
lot
for
of
this
stuff.
throughout.
Like
Once
Scrapper,
again,
they did.
reiterate, make sure you give us your feedback.
That
We
was
will be
good.
reading, the forums
Well, yeah,
and
that's
Thankfully.
like
But that
more of a
was
spur of the moment. If
ridiculous.
there's a very like outwardly negative, like
Yeah,
Shadow
yeah.
Meld.
I'll probably
I
spend the
have
whole
a feeling that
weekend
Shadow
reading that,
Meld
actually.
might
Probably
not be
actually
changed the
will.
way
I
that
don't
they've
really
said in this
I
patch
think they won't
because
change a lot of stuff, honestly.
I saw chat people were like, well, no one's gonna use Shadow Meld now because it's like, what's the point?
It was that for loads of stuff, though, for a lot of people.
Want to read over? It will be posted directly after the stream ends.
is
yeah,
reverting
once
them
again, thank you
back
very much for
to
watching.
Ukon. Keep
Enjoyed.
that
As
question.
always, I've
I'd
been
like you to
Roy
answer
Roy
that.
Marks.
Ask that again later.
This person over there has been Cal CMC Cohen. Cal?
Yep. Thanks everyone for watching. You know, these are always a lot of fun. So thanks for again kind of bearing with us with the at-home version. Big shout out to Roy for running the stream again. And
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
there were obviously a couple of
Barely.
mishaps with the PowerPoint, but
We'll find out who
that
did
happens
that.
when Roy does
figure
the
it out.
PowerPoint. Because I did the
We'll find
PowerPoint.
out who did that. No idea who did that, but
Yeah,
we'll make
check,
sure to.
we'll track that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously
Roadmap.
we'll continue to do this in the future because they're a lot of fun, and I mean, hopefully everyone likes to just listen to us.
Nah, I want
Hour and
to
a
see
half.
balance these
Yeah.
done differently.
Really stretch this one out.
I want to
Yeah,
see
please.
video, more
Other
video,
forums, post on
more
your feedback,
video,
and we
more
may
like
If they just
engaging.
do icons,
And
I
Cal,
think that
Anything.
would be like
It's
that
just
would be
text.
Yeah, put some icons and stuff on,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
don't think
honestly, I don't want to lambast them too much because, like, I think that we've been saying over and over and over, you know, I wish they would do more live streams. I wish they would deliver more, like, FaceTime updates. And, like, of course, I think there are ways to continue to polish this, add icons, or even in the way that you structure how you talk about this, because I think it's always difficult bridging that gap between players who are hardcore balance-oriented players and players who aren't, who have no idea what this gobbledygook means for their class, right? Like, so I do think there are ways to step up the production, but like obviously it seems like Roy organized this from his computer, which might be why there weren't official moderators and things in the chat. So like if there are people internally who are pushing to have more of this communication, I want to champion them. I want to be like, yes, like let's do this.
This is great.
Yeah, like because I think that's awesome. I just think that like yes, there are ways to continue improving it, but I am glad to see them communicating this way, right? They do need moderators in this chat though. Like, you do need moderators in this chat.
I didn't mind it all too much.
Well, my big thing is that on an official channel, right? Like
Definitely,
we as players are used to salty boys and nonsense,
I know,
right?
I think we all agree on that. Your point about that.
Yeah.
But I think that's absolutely. No, you're right. It's not even that. It's just like they've always done it. You know, don't not do it all of a sudden. There's something about it where I'm like, yeah, there's something changing. There's some I don't know. I'm getting a bit of a bad vibe from it. For some reason, I'm not sure. There's something
I have
where I'm
no
like,
idea what you're talking about.
just like the
Bad vibe
chat.
from what?
No, like not having the moderation and stuff. Like there's some kind of change there that is important. Like I don't know. There seems like a weird thing. There was some really bad stuff in there. Like there was some genuinely awful things in there, and I'm like, that's not something I'm used to.
I wasn't watching it. I should have probably. But...
Yeah, no,
I mean, it was very bad. It was very
really
bad. It doesn't look good for the company. It doesn't look good for the game, especially if players are curious about it and then they see that the top channel in the category is the official channel and people are being garbage humans in the chat. Like it definitely needs to be moderated, but like I said, Roy mentioned, like they had that mention at the end that Roy was running it from his computer. So I don't know if this was something where like right now they just didn't have the time, the resources. In the past when I've been in the studio, they like have hired moderators that sit there in front of the computers and moderate, but I don't know what happened with that in those regards. I don't get a bad vibe from the studio. I don't know what's happening with it, but like I think that you know if they are going to be doing more of the communication,
the stream generally, not the studio.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what you mean.
I've known them for so long. I'm pretty sure, like, they're not. There's not that. Yeah, no, it's the stream I'm talking about.
Hired moderators they're not usually devs from ArenaNet, are they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
they can be anyone. They're anyone. Normally, they're a production team or communication marketing peeps.
Production.
But yeah, I hope next time they have somebody in there because it needed it for sure. And yeah, I noticed that all of our mod things had been revoked, so I was like, I can't even get rid of these. Like,
yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they could have us like volunteer for that or something. But then you know,
I don't know if this is related, but I read on a news thing recently that NCSoft lost a few or like. Got rid of a few members of their team in Bellevue, so maybe those members might have been on the moderation
that could
team.
be true. That could be true.
It seemed like it was mostly non-production individuals who were laid off. and specifically at NCSoft, it might have echoed to ArenaNet specifically, but
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we just had a huge wave of layoffs in the tech industry and also in gaming studios. Although, thankfully, this time, I mean, knock on wood, it doesn't seem like ArenaNet itself, right, was as affected as in past years where we've had like horrible layoffs or things like that. So
Yeah.
But all of this to say, that was a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
there was a lot.
there's a lot of good stuff in there. I'm still not jazzed about the. It's hard to say. Okay, I'm so used.
Is it hard to say? Because it's easy for me to say.
The Firebrand changes I'm not entirely enthused about. I would say, so for mantra changes in general, it's what happened when it first changed to the simple mantras, right? Like without the cast time and everything like that.
Yeah.
My exact phrase was, I don't like this change. It makes it too simple. It removes like an interesting aspect of mantras, but it's going to make it very easy to use, and it's a quality of life change to use. Going back to it, it's going to feel annoying to use now again, but you know, it's at least you have the...
And also for the Firebrand, its cast times are much longer to actually charge your mantra, and you don't even get an effect when you successfully spend that time to conjure it. Whereas the Mesmer, it's so fast, and you get an additional effect out of it.
Indeed.
I think what I would have much preferred was for mantra, because I truly believe that mantras needed something new to make it more of an identifiable skill type. And we saw World of Warcraft create these empower skills where you can hold it down, and then based on how long you commit to it, you get a stronger effect, where you can cast it relatively instantly if you need it, but if you want to spend more time to charge and prepare that mantra, in this case, you would get a stronger effect, so that you don't have that awkward in-between moment where it's going on cooldown, and then you have to charge it, and then you can use an ability. I would have much preferred to have seen some sort of charge mechanic where it is totally dependent on the player, and in that circumstance where if you need an instant activation, you can get it, or if you can spend more time to get a stronger effect, you could do that.
What I really don't like, I'll tell you, it's just because of the build I have in World vs. World that I love so much and I use all the time. Like for the last 3 years, I've been doing nothing but use this build. So it hurts me a little bit just because in the previous change in World versus in Firebrand, when they changed the Grandmaster traits to like spread out the Lore Master one, right? And so they changed the top Grandmaster trait that used to give slowness when you interrupted a foe, slowness and burning. And they removed the slowness and burning when you interrupt a foe, and you just give yourself boons now. And now they're also making it so that it's harder to get the slowness from the master trait. You're basically just... slowness used to be very useful for my build and easy to get on Firebrand. Now it's very difficult to give someone slowness, which sucks.
Yeah.
I'm more so just worried about the gameplay side of things, like how it will feel.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
of course.
I feel like, Kroof, from a design standpoint, I like your concept of this better in the sense that, like, as a mantra, you would assume that the more you repeat it, because mantra literally being a series of words that you say, the more you repeat it, the more that it would gain power. So I like that. I mean, it might just be that they don't have behind the scenes right now, like, what they would need to fully restructure or like work in something like that where you're like holding it down and then you're, you know, detonating, or, you know, maybe that could be.
They do, because those charge skills used to be in alpha, and then they got rid of them entirely on weapon skills.
And but I mean, that was a very long time ago.
It's a very long time ago,
I mean...
but the sentiment still stands with trebuchets. Trebuchets work in the same way, where the longer you hold it down, the further it goes.
Right, but what I mean is that, like, as of right now, the way that they would need to, like, re-implement that, put that in, redo that for classes and stuff, might not be something that with these, like, patches we see, but could be something that down the road we might see on a larger scale. So I like that concept of idea. I mean, I think that them trying to do something with mantras is good. Now, like, will this all pan out? We'll see. I mean, I am curious too to see how it pans out for Mesmers versus for Guardians, because there are some distinctive differences between those two. So it could very well be that they are also using both of those cases as a way to study approaches for either side, and may switch, the other one to fall more in line, vice versa, or they might think specifically for these classes this particular way works better. So I'm not like that wildly worried about it, but I mean, it is kind of interesting to see them do this. I mean, there were a lot of people in chat talking about the fact that they're like, oh, well, you're just reversing the changes you already made and blah, 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 for a lot of the stuff, not just mantra stuff down the road.
But that isn't that maybe that's the general question we can all think about. Is it necessarily bad that you do that if after a while it doesn't really fit the theme of the class? Because 4 years. But there was a very different team in charge then. I think Cal was maybe there, but not as more of a junior role. And they wanted to change mantras because, there was that long cast time, it was longer. I think it's shorter now, whereas the idea of it, when it changed, it was just now it's not a mantra, it's just a shout. It's just I don't really get
more
that.
than anything. It's an instant ability.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's
no,
I like that it's going back to its original form.
Yes.
However, you need more. So
there's still
the
initial
reason
problem.
why it was interesting before is because you could add interactions through traits to improve.
Yes.
In return for the less usefulness that you're getting.
There was a reflex on channel on Mesmer, for example, which was really fun.
For example. But they haven't really reintroduced that. The weighty terms is not a good enough bonus for casting your last thing. You don't get anything for
AoE
recharging
stuff, though.
it.
There is the AoE stuff that they put in, so that is not too bad.
What do you mean?
Isn't the AoE
for Mesmer?
No, sorry, for Mesmer.
Mesmer, I think that the mantras for Mesmer should be fine. They seem like they're going to be okay.
So what do we think for Guardian? What could you? And this goes into it. Go with it. What could you add to it? Well, have some suggestions. Creef had some. What else could you do instead?
Well, like I
Guardian,
said,
Guardian specific.
Like I said, putting 2 seconds of slowness on the final cast of the Firebrand mantras is not a good enough bonus.
Mm-hmm.
You get that one extra page now, but I think that might be slightly useful for competitive PvP in World versus World, slightly, but not for PvE, because you're going to have to put in recasting your mantras as part of your rotations, which is not useful. You're not going to be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. So I don't think that's good. I don't think it's good.
What else could they? Is there anything else that you can think of that would be beneficial? Wild, just go wild with it.
Yeah, wild with it. What does Firebrand need that it?
I would say add to the base mantra a mantra that can actually replenish pages, just because we need to have a bit more of an active ability where you can have that control over it.
You could just have an animation of just inserting pages into a book.
A good extra thing that if you charge your mantra, if you cast the thing to get your mantras back. That recharges pages as well.
Yeah, because you will need to recast them on Firebrand when you're in combat. So you will have that 20-second wait in between.
There needs to be a
knowledge thing. Yeah.
There has to be a bonus to having to do that.
I like that. Because that's still time out, isn't it? If it was a bit longer, maybe as well. The more, you could have. I like the specific one to maybe, like you were saying, Creef, to maybe gain more pages as well. It was a little bit longer, you gain half your pages back or something like that. Because you wouldn't be doing anything else, would you? Because you'd still be charging. You wouldn't be able to do anything else during that, I guess.
Yeah, maybe just baseline as a Firebrand, whenever you complete a mantra. It's weird because that would have to be a minor trait of something rather than a trait that you choose. I think the way that they've reworked Firebrand it doesn't seem like they figured out how the page system was going to work in the flow of combat. The beginning is really fun because you get a big burst window, but then you're just left waiting and waiting and waiting to activate something that you would consider to be a very fundamental part of your rotations.
I mean, didn't they like base Firebrand pretty much around that just a book elite skill from back in the day?
Yeah,
like I feel like and they just liked it. And
Here
they're
are
like,
your
"Oh, this is
tomes.
really good." Yeah, exactly.
Here are your tomes. You're going to be a master of lore, and now I just feel like I'm attending a library waiting for my return book to pick out another one. So
Yeah,
it
I
feels a
mean-
little weird.
Something to say though, because we were talking about this, Kroof and I, when I was on my stream, and I didn't
Yes.
realize that I was overtime. And sorry about that, by the way.
It's okay.
But I just switched us to being at 3 p.m. and then today we was back at 2 again.
I know.
So,
Switch it up on you.
We were forcing Kroof to try to give you little nudges.
I know.
I didn't actually do
didn't
that.
want to.
I
Look,
didn't.
I need to be
was just
honest.
like, we
I
could
didn't
just
want
go
to
live
say
and they just come
anything.
in.
okay, I
didn't
was
wanna
happy
say
to
anything.
see you. I was naive and I didn't know. I was like, Kroof's here. I'm so happy to talk with Kroof.
I was there of my own free will for the good 10 minutes. Then Bruce is like, oh, you're
Yeah.
watching Rook?
No, like I went on your stream too, and I saw Kroof just like 5 minutes to go before the stream, and Kroof was just like typing in chat, interacting with you with what you were saying, and I was like, Kroof, give her a nudge, let her know that we gotta go.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to be the one. I like this.
Oh my gosh. But we were talking about Firebrand a little bit in that, I mean, I liked what you said because I agreed with you in that, again, as we discuss all this Firebrand stuff, we've talked about for ages that Firebrand needed some stuff to curb it. It needed some things so that it, brought its baseline down a bit so that everybody else can also be there. And so like in that sense, I do feel like a lot of the direction and changes that they've made for Firebrand and, even the changes recently for Tomes has brought us closer to that balance, which is good. But I agree as well simultaneously with what we've all been saying, what Kroof is saying, in that I think that by the nature of really your main feature, the main defining thing that Firebrand is all about, and weaving these stories and having these tomes and summoning and evoking these things, I think we have lost some of that active engagement with what is the unique identity, aesthetic, feel of the class. So it is tough right now because like balance wise, for all the critiques that we're saying and how we think they need to change mantras and all this stuff, like balance wise, I actually think Firebrand is in a better place. But now it's about almost refining and figuring out like, well, how do we not punish those unique mechanics so much? And like things like this, I think you're saying, Boots, where you can do this little trade-off or, hey, well, maybe we can incentivize this or this so that then you can use this a little bit more. I do think would be good. And I mean, for all that, I just wanted to mention that, like, for all that we're critiquing Firebrand right now, and I think some of these changes, Firebrand is still not in some abysmal place. It's not it's not garbage.
It's in a fine
It
place
was in
right now.
PvP.
Like right now, it's fine, but we'll see what happens
In
after
PvP,
patch,
it's
like, how
more than
much people
garbage.
like it.
In
Oh, yeah,
PvP,
PvP is kind
in
of garbage
PvP,
still.
it's in the crowd. Like it's not even like it's not even allowed into the stadium in Coliseum to watch.
Oh, gosh.
Should you scroll down actually? Because I think they did say that there were changes to PvP Firebrand, but I don't
Just
remember them
some-
talking about them.
There were just buffs
sure.
to like healing in the healing tome.
Oh, the healing tome buffs. Yeah, they doubled something, which actually
Maybe-
yeah.
Just put another point in the mantra.
that's
Like we're
cool, huh?
talking about how mantras interact with traits and the whole entire cast time of it, but we also I want to bring up like the third and final charge of the mantra is supposed to be something that is worth using, because oftentimes you have to balance that, oh, should I use it to get a stronger effect and then wait a longer cooldown to then recharge it, which takes a while? Or do I just let it quickly recharge so I can just use the second charge, like the one right before the final one? I would really love to see those final mantra uses be buffed up to such a degree where you are logically...
I think they're doing it though.
Are they? I
Well,
don't
like,
really
I think
see
they're
it.
returning it back to the original Firebrand mantras, where the final one is more powerful, not
No,
just
but
waiting terms.
even then, they were never that powerful
Yeah, you're right.
for
They weren't,
me.
they weren't amazing.
The
it was
condition
it was
removal
like,
one was
oh,
okay.
your quickness one, yeah, because it flipped cleanse
Gives
to
like twice
convert.
as much
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
quickness,
Which was
and some
good.
more
That
might.
was good.
It was like you got
8
2
stacks of might
extra
instead of
seconds.
5, and yeah.
It's not, I don't think that the final charge is enough of a trade-off. So I would also like to see those buffed in a way that is unique and compelling to say like, oh, I used this final moment and both gameplay wise and effectively, it is more palpable and it's more worthwhile.
Yeah,
Palpable.
I agree.
I like that word. Okay.
I think we skipped straight to Guardian.
We did skip right to Guardian. I mean, we don't have to go over every single thing.
Yeah, highlights. Highlight.
We're gonna
real
go.
time.
I'm gonna have a look through. I did have some questions that I thought I'd ask you all.
I liked that change to Berserker Grandmaster trait.
Well,
Yes.
Well, we'll talk about Warrior first. There was a bigger change, wasn't there? What else was the big one? The gun.
Oh, Bladesworn.
The
Yes.
Bladesworn. The gun blade. So now that's
ranged attacks.
So what do we think about that? The ranged attacks with a with greatsword for Warrior.
Well, it's a gunblade.
It's a gunblade now. So the thing is actually supposed to be doing what it does. I mean, it goes along with the whole mantra thing, right? Like mantras now do the thing. Maybe that's what they're trying to do in Guild Wars too. The skill actually description actually goes along with what it does.
It'd be really cool, but also not. Okay, you know how
I like how you've already regretted the idea that you're gonna have. You don't have to say it. You don't have to commit. It's okay.
So, you know, in Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
No.
You know how Squall
Yes.
has a gunblade, and when you use his gunblade, if you pull the trigger right while you're swinging, it does like a critical damage because you shoot the gun at the same time as you're swinging. Well, for this gunblade, they could make it so that whenever you auto attack, the auto attack flips over for a split second, and if you press it again really quick, it shoots the bullet as well, instead of just automatically shooting the bullet. And that way they can make the bullet stronger, and it'd be a skill thing. It'd be fun.
People already have so many issues keeping track of their auto attack icon.
You would just have to double tap the auto attack. Double tap the
I mean, again, that can be a desired thing that Boots likes. If he, fun little thing.
Or maybe not the auto attack. That might be a bit much for the auto attack, but like some other
extra F1 skill. An extra F1 skill would be fun.
I do actually like that. I mean, I will say that I like the Bladesworn change. I think this is really nice. I think it was needed in the sense that like Bladesworn can do a lot, but it's right. They're kind of doing this mentality, the almost like turret, right? In a sense where, you have to be more stagnant, more static, but you can do more damage. So in stuff like PvE, I mean, in certain fights and with like one boss or one thing, like obviously you can push that to good limits, but in stuff like PvP where they were talking about, it's really tough to just sit there and do, let alone like, I mean, of course you can play around that a bit, but do you really feel like you're getting to use your class in a way that feels like it's the full scope of that class and it's engaging and enjoyable? I mean, probably not. So although I haven't taken it in myself, I can kind of envision that and imagine it. And so the idea to add a little something for it so that you're not completely out of luck if you cannot get that like melee range right perfect kind of thing, but to also have this I think nice evolution of the class fantasy because it does have a gun on it. So like add something in where you are having that ranged and you do have some of that capability, and I like that they did that.
Did they, in the notes, do they mention that they're reducing the damage on the auto attack, or is it just an extra amount of damage that it also fires a bullet?
They balanced it so if you're at range, you're not getting the most amount of damage because you're just getting the projectile. But if you're in melee, you're getting both hits, so it just equalizes to how it normally is right now.
Did it say that it equalizes how it normally is, or did it say?
They said it in the stream too. They said you're not getting any buff or nerf. They just split it evenly.
Yeah, I think that it's that if your melee hit lands, then it's like reduced damage on the bullet essentially. So like
Yeah, I know that, but did they say they're reducing the damage on the
I don't think so.
Melee swing?
I don't think they said that.
No.
Well,
they are in order to add the projectile.
Well, they did say that. Oh, okay.
So if you just get the melee and it gets reflected on like a magnetic aura, you technically are getting reduced damage.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Good.
Because
so magnetic aura is good against blade swords now.
Yeah.
Oh, any kind of effect. Yeah, absolutely. I want to try and find that. Okay, yeah, and you were talking about the Berserker thing. You were talking about boots. You enjoyed as well. What was that?
Yeah, the Grandmaster trait that now your on rage effects also trigger when you exit rage. And on top of that, you get extra adrenaline, I think, or was it endurance and stability on exiting an entry.
I'm very surprised because I felt when we were getting the initial new balance, like the new wave of balance for End of Dragons, it felt like they were like reducing and having a leash on many of the abilities. And as we've gone, it's just like we're adding 7 sentences to this one trait. Like, oh my gosh. And it's also connected to all the other traits in the line. So all those are proccing at the same time. It is a very strong Grandmaster. And it certainly feels like a Grandmaster.
Really cool.
But we'll have to see. I mean, it depends on if the other Grandmaster traits are always taken, because there has to be some element of competition and decision making. So maybe it'll end up being totally fine and normal. But if anyone was already using that trait, you're probably just going to enjoy it even more now.
It looks pretty good, yeah. So I'm looking at the Bladesworn changes, and they don't say anything about reducing the damage on the melee slash. They just say you get a little extra projectile that's less powerful when you're in melee. So I don't know. Maybe it is a little bit of a buff to auto attacks. Who knows?
I think. Well, no, yeah, it is. It is generally. It must be, right? I mean, it must be at least a little bit. Otherwise, obviously. There is some stuff on there that they didn't show off in their PowerPoint because they did highlight. So if there is anything in there, like for example, Poison Dart Volley, animation speed is different. They've changed just kind of looks of general skills and bits and bobs animation wise in different classes. There is the Necromancer big highlight was like shouts, like Reaper getting massive buffs.
I like those. Those are cool.
That's one of my favorite parts. Yeah, because
like
I love
a melee
Reaper.
shout build, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's what it used to be. I played in the PvP tournament with Empress, who's like a massive support guardian. Back in the day, I met her for the first time when we played this 2v2 tournament as a content creator tournament a couple of years ago, and I played Shout Reaper to counter it was a condition removal Shout Reaper with the Shout rune, for Guardian to remove conditions. So I just used that. And it was just full power melee. And it was just like, yeah, man, I miss Shout so much. Like, back in the day, Chill to the Bone was like a big play because the animation, because you put your hand in the air. And it was just, or you do that kind of like, that kind of thing. And you fake people out with that ability so much. And now it's even stronger. And I'm like, oof. And then with time warp change as well, I'm like, so you could have some nice time warp, Chill to the Bone combos. I'm like, yeah, listen, might start playing my Reaper again for sure. That's exciting.
Yeah. The Reaper, besides the shouts, the Reaper changes to those 2 traits.
Yeah.
The internal cooldown on the one of them, and then and then on the other one, I forget what they did.
Chilling Victory
Blighter Spoon.
Was it Blighter Spoon? Oh,
Blighter Spoon and Chilling Victory, yeah. You're basically like improving the survivability or life generation, basically, of a Reaper in 2. You're doubling it, maybe. So
Shouts just didn't get used that much because like necro problems in PvP it was mostly like we didn't play any spec, but we're just going to use Spectral Walk, the field which denies projectiles, and another stun break. Oh no, Flesh Worm, and then that's it. Like otherwise, just pick any other necro spec, but you have to have at least 2 of those utilities to be survivable. So by actually doing that, they're actually giving it some use as well. So you can't just play. I'll be Reaper, but I'll just pick the normal things. I'll go for the extra bits and bobs. So that's pretty good. Yeah, Empress is great. Please go and check them out if you haven't seen them. I know they're not streamers much anymore, but like. Really, really good support Guardian and Tempest actually in Guild Wars 2 PvP, and is good people. I
also love that they continue to remove these traits that reduce the recharge of certain utility skills. I think it opens up a lot of trait choice, because sometimes you'll look at your build and you have so many of one particular utility type that you feel very compelled to take it just for the reduction of the cooldown. But now you'll have a little bit more flexibility if you are in a build like you don't necessarily need that life siphon from the shouts and you'd rather just have something else. So I love that. And these improvements to these shouts are really cool. I'm excited to see how it'll feel with some of these like more aggressive shouts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they take a look back at those traits that they took that away from, to see if they need a little bit of a buff now. Maybe they could now look at all traits as they are after they remove the cooldown reduction from a lot of them and say, oh, okay, this one needs a little bit more now, this one needs a little bit more now, etc.
I also just like thematically, I love the idea of a necromancer that is just like shouting like necromantic undead commands.
Yeah,
like
that's what he does.
because
Yeah, it's good.
when you think about it so much, anytime in like fantasy or fiction or anything like that, and you like have the necromancer character, they're like, "Rise, my undead horrors."
That's what he does. That's literally what it is.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's so good. So I love the idea of that in a game as well, and I feel like that like gets my imagination going. So to see them lean into this and like put that in is something that I think is really unique to Guild Wars 2, because in most other MMOs you don't even have things like shouts or mantras as any kind of category, and yet we forget oftentimes that like that component of a spell or of magic is such a big thing, right? Like even in D&D you have your different types of components like somatic, voice, like gestures, like maybe gestures are somatic, you know, like they're like you have the different elements to it. So I would even love to see other games I think take a page from that, because you could have casters who are evoking through language or inscribing runes or, you know, using
That's why
materials.
mantras were so important. Because they had that. That's what they had, because they held that whole, you know, symbol with their hand. You know, they were doing the things like, and then they did that, and it was part of the cast as well. When they pulled their hand in, when they pulled their hand in, it cast ended. Like, so you could see the animation. You could also see what people were doing. So it was always like a very, absolutely, Rick. That's really important.
They should give stability also on mantra cast.
No.
Yeah, for the mantra
during the
they should give
cast?
stability. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
No.
During the recast.
Because okay.
I like counterplay, so I say no.
It takes a long time. It's like 2.5
The
seconds.
reflect
the
was
Firebrand?
good. Just have
Why
the
don't they
reflect.
just reduce the cast time on Firebrand?
Yeah,
Like,
fair enough.
They should just not call them mantras and just change it.
also, I think, okay, I know we're going back to mantras real quick, but like, I also think it's going to be weird, like when you're on a Guardian in PvE, you just have your abilities automatically, but if you're on a Mesmer, you have to always activate your abilities.
There's only going to be 2 chapters in this. It's going to be like the reaction, because we always go, it's too hard for me to do this now. Sometimes I just put random bits and I'm like,
So what do you guys think about the Deadeye change to the elite skill in Thief?
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Why? Why
Because
would you look at that and say?
Because it was counterplay of the counterplay.
So give it 1 charge and like a 60-second cooldown. Like, it's an elite skill. Y'all, that was wild. It's not even a skill anymore. Like, I like Shadow Meld because it was also a callback to an alpha version. I know me and my alpha knowledge of Thief, because it had an elite skill that was like a stalker ability where you were stealthed and could attack and not be revealed. So you could literally just kill people while totally invisible. And it was, I think, their elite skill. So it was like a nice nod to a very intrinsic identity of Thief as being like a master of stealth. And removing it is very integral to that ability being useful. But the problem does arise when you have 2 charges of it, because it's very, it's easy access and very on demand. So just make it 1 charge and like increase the cooldown by like 10, 15, 20 seconds. But I like it a lot. I don't know why they had to remove the reveal part.
I like some of the changes to Spectre. It's a good step in the right direction for making a semi-viable support build for Spectre.
Yeah.
It needs a little more. I really think that protection. I think that protection is definitely a single target to the ally you're targeting.
It should be AoE.
It should 100% be AoE, and you shouldn't have to be targeting your allies for it.
No, I agree with you. Should be targeting your ally.
You,
I do,
because you
because-
want it in the theme of Spectre still.
Because
that's
I think
why.
if you are making that decision to target an ally, you're putting yourself in that position, and it should reward you more for doing that, not just
Okay, sure.
That makes
I think it
sense.
should be either way.
You're like, I want it DPS, aggressive, might
Do you
and
think-
protection
do you
uptime
think
on
Wells-
AoE all the time.
Do you think Wells for Spectre could be a little bit closer to Necro in terms of like, you know, maybe some of the even the trait lines in Blood? Because I kind of like the res for Necro in the Bloodline as well, you know, when you use your 4th kind of shroud skill and stuff like that. Do you think they could add some more stuff to Spectre in that respect?
Well, they do. They have
really
something.
strong res.
They have a good res for Spectre
True.
already. The 3rd Grandmaster, you steal on an ally who's downed and they get res by 33%. It could be more.
Maybe it could be more.
But it's on a 10-second cooldown.
Yeah.
It's like
actually
True,
less
true.
in a
Yeah,
lot of
less.
cases.
It's very on demand.
Yeah, I think another issue is that if you're doing your support build, you're trying to give boons to everybody, and one of the ways you give boons to everybody is by stealing on cooldown. So you don't always have it up like you do if you're a Necro or something like that.
I think so. Spectre's primary difficulty always has felt like, you know, you feel supported, but you're not very tanky, right? Like that's one of the big problems. Like it feels like you can't really be in there in fights. So I guess I'm talking about PvP specifically rather than PvE. Although I don't know, PvE, do you feel quite tanky when you're running Spectre? I ran it a while ago and I'd felt kind of okay, but in PvP I do not at all.
I think it depends what build you're running. Like if
I was
you're doing
running
a
the Kroof
DPS
build back in the day and I was fairly tanky.
Yeah, if you're doing a DPS Spectre, you're not that. You're more tanky than a normal thief.
That,
that's a
yeah, for
DPS
sure.
thief.
Yeah. Because that was meta for a while.
Yeah, I think they changed something to help it a little bit because for a little while they reduced the shroud, but they didn't have any bonuses to it. So like you would go into shroud to try to do some extra DPS and stuff like that, but they would one-shot you out of shroud basically the damage from enemies. So that was an issue, but then they made it so that you have reduced damage to you while you're in shroud, so it's a little bit better now. But if you're playing a healing spec or a support spec, you're very tanky.
Yeah. I'd like to see the F1, when you use it on an ally, also interact with other traits. Because I don't like Thrill of the Crime. I think that's the one that gives you boons when you steal. It doesn't proc when you target an
you're right.
ally. So I'd like to see that ironed out just so that you aren't... Especially if you are targeting an ally, you are very much in that support mindset because you are going out of your way to do it. So I'd like to see that just kind of that crossover finally meet. So there's not that.
I agree. That would be a nice change. The cooldown is much lower though if you target an ally.
Yes.
So that would be
half duration
a
or
big
something.
buff if you could target an ally
Yeah.
instead to get those boons.
Maybe like if you target an ally, like boons are reduced by like 75% or half or
Maybe,
whatever.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Is there a cooldown on Thrill of the Crime?
No.
No. Yeah. They do that with traits where it's like specific. Spec.
Yeah, but I think adding an internal cooldown to line up with
Oh,
targeting
that
an
could
enemy
work.
would be no, it wouldn't be great though because if you're targeting an ally, sometimes you might target an ally twice and not get it the second time. It wouldn't feel as good.
That would be in line with how everything kind of works, though.
It's not fun when your internal cooldown of a trait that target that for a skill, like if a trait affects a skill and the internal cooldown of that trait is longer than the cooldown of the trait, that's never fun.
I think it. Okay.
I always love watching
wanna keep
like
going. I
the
wanna keep
Boots
going.
Kroof discussion sometimes because it's like watching Wimbledon or like a tennis tournament or something. It's like bang,
all I
bang,
say is
use
I
the
want-
Kroof serves and like, you know, they do this amazing drop shot or like, so like here comes the volley, there's from Boots, oh but Kroof comes back right out of the front and you're just like, whoa, okay, this is cool, I'm just not gonna get
I can
involved.
see what I see what you're saying. I think my issue comes when it's like a second or two of a difference, but if it's like a double of a difference,
A double difference, yeah.
it feels
makes
a little bit
more
Ooh,
sense.
deuces,
Yeah.
deuce. We're on juice.
But yeah, no, I
Match
see what you're
points.
saying. I can see what you're saying.
If it's
We're
'cause
both conceding now, aren't we?
I think we agree with each other.
Okay,
Yeah, I
they
think
both,
Bruce agrees with me. So,
both
and
fell
I
over.
agree with
I
Bruce.
think Proof agrees with me as well.
God
Yeah.
damn it.
So we're on the same page.
What we're supposed to do? Who's
I
gonna
love
win?
that I'm over here in these like intense balance discussions where I'm like, I like when a class it has sparkle on it.
I also love that.
Speaking of
I
Mesmer.
love that.
Oh, can you add more
then, like-
value than that?
And the group of boots are like, okay, but let's talk about if they extended this by 1 second, the amount of potency over the course
just
of. And then I
moderating
come
now.
back in and I'm like, I think it's cool because if a necromancer is like, get up, and then they get out of the grave,
Yeah.
and then it like goes
And they
back to
get
the
out
two
there.
of you.
But I value that because sometimes these balance changes will remove something tasteful and class specific.
Exactly.
Like with the mantra
Just like the scrapper
animations.
stuff too. Like
Good
when we were talking about-
Did you
segue.
say strapper? What is it? Strapper?
When we were talking about Scrapper last,
Oh,
like the
Scrapper,
last balance
sorry.
patch when they were trying to change the
talking about
Scrapper
Scrapper.
gyros, and we were like,
Oh yeah.
no, my immersion.
Yeah, no, I hated that. That was the worst. And I'm glad they didn't change it. They changed some of it, and that was fine because I'm used to it now. Rick, you're the only voice understood.
Good.
Exactly.
I'll
see?
be here to translate for all of us,
Good.
to add that sparkle factor. I mean, I honestly take so much away from this, and it's great because when we do these podcasts, then I can take whatever the two of you said, and then I can just say the exact same thing on my stream as though I know anything about anything. And everybody's like, "Wow, Rick knows so much about Guild Wars too," and I'm like, "That's right, of
I
course."
think we should do
Pasta.
this though. Okay, we should go to each class and go to Rook first and see what was the thing that she took away most from that class changes. So, Elementalist, what do you feel? How do you feel about Elementalist?
Oh, let's get into Ellie. Rook, how you feel?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, give me a second here. Give me a second.
It doesn't have to be specific. It could be just as a
Okay.
whole.
Oh yeah, no. As I furiously scroll up the list to Elementalist.
I'm just gonna leave. I didn't even get a mention. I was like,
Jebro, how are you
fine, all right.
feeling? How are
do
you
you feel about it?
feeling,
No,
Jebro?
it's
Yeah.
fine. No, I'll just be the person's channel that's on. It's fine.
Okay.
You're the.
No. Let's see. Let's see.
this with
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and you can all tell me if I'm getting the right impression or not. And then this will
Okay.
be our, like, Rook helps everybody who's not as technically minded as Kroof and Boots.
It doesn't have to
maybe
be
get a grasp
technical.
of what's going
Like,
on.
I'm asking you this not because I want to got you on the technical aspects. I want to know
No,
how
you
you
do.
feel about
Yeah, that's literally the
the
reason.
lore aspects of how things transfer onto that.
Yeah.
That's
Like
how
the
you fill your
rise with
ego
Necro,
boots.
I thought was very interesting and very true.
I mean, okay, so, all right. In my head right now, I want you all to know that as I read through this, I just hear. What
What song is that?
I don't know, but it's a panic song. As I
Oh
like-
yeah, I thought you
okay.
were gonna go for the Benny Hill music. I'll do that one
No,
if you
I
want.
was okay. I initially was going for the Benny Hill music, but then
Oh.
I was trying to read at the same time, and it did not. It didn't
You
happen.
did a remix, Benny Hill
Okay.
remix. Okay.
So I get the impression from looking at this that I mean, it seems pretty good. Like, it seems pretty solid to me. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but it seems like we're getting some buffs. They're trying to, like, maybe ease us, you know, like ease some of the issues with other parts or some of the maybe unapproachability of Elementalist for players. Although, of course, I mean, you can master it, you can get through it.
I think you're pretty spot on.
I mean, I get
through
the
it.
sense.
Yeah.
What do you think about changes to staff to Elementalist?
I honestly, I mean, maybe I'm totally taking away the wrong thing on this, but I felt fine about it. It seems like it buffed up some of the healing in it and some other things with that, as well as making it clearer to target stuff and direct things. That's the impression that I took away from this. I felt like with Tempest, I mean, Tempest has been strong, but they only did one major change to it, but I mean, I think it's a nice sort of bonus to that, putting that alacrity on.
Yeah.
And having that pulse, because I think Tempest, at least from my impression, from what I've gathered, and again, please feel free to like totally spin off of this if I'm like totally wrong, but Tempest has always been very strong in healing, and in fact, like many times in the game, has the most like sheer amount of healing that you can just straight up, you know, hit people with, but it sometimes loses out to some of the other healers. I get the impression because of some of their additional boon stuff or like throughput healing. Maybe I'm totally off on that, but that's the impression that I typically get when I'm going into it. So to have a little bit more and having that a lack on it, I feel is nice in those regards.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
You're good.
does that sound good? Does that sound smart? Like I know a thing.
You got the good stuff. I think staff changes are pretty cool. They made staff better in a lot of aspects, and everybody loves to be an elementalist wielding a big old staff. But nobody has been able to really do it that often because it hasn't been very good until hopefully now.
Thank you, Groove.
Yes, the wiki's up.
Thank
Oh,
you.
good.
This can help everyone.
That's gonna help
if you need
a lot.
to know what icons
And then
look like.
I mean, how
the
quickly
Tempest
did they do
change-
that, man? I mean, why don't they just
They're
employ
good.
someone from the
The
wiki
wikis.
to just do this? Like, just employ someone from the fucking wiki so that they could do this and just design your balance post purchase. It's like just pay them as in the contractor.
I wonder
just
what
contract them for like 10 minutes because that's how long it takes.
Possible that things might
Jesus
change like
Christ.
5 minutes before.
Yeah.
Mayhaps.
It's
I
so
guess
good
to-
though. You go to the
guess-
skill, like it's just burning speed.
No,
You've
it's
got the
very
icon,
nice.
you've got the link to the skill. It's just like, good lord, it's so good.
But yeah.
But the Tempest change. The Tempest change is very
Okay, do we want to talk Tempest first?
Tempest change, yeah. So
Okay.
the main issue with a lot of people not liking the way that alacrity was given on the Tempest originally was that it was at the end of the cast for the
Yes.
overloads, and it took a long. For me, ain't nobody got time for that. It took too long.
Oh man, I need a soundboard for this stream.
Even
Ain't nobody
with
got
quickness,
time for that.
I was just like, oh, this is so boring. I have to wait 2 seconds to cast this.
It's okay, at least
Which
boring
is what it's
anyway.
going to be like with the mantras for Firebrand now. And yeah, but now it's pulsing when it's casting. So now you get
I
it.
wonder what it's gonna look
as
like.
you go.
It'll look the same.
Oh.
It'll look the same.
It'll look exactly the same.
Well, I mean, if we skim up a little bit earlier too, I know you both pointed out as they were actually going through it that healing rain, right? So talking about like that staff and the improvements and things like that. Healing rain having that the skill now heals allies for each Condi removed.
That's great.
An increased Condi.
Also, what I might
removals, which is
say,
great.
love that Water Blast can now target allies. I love that they
Oh,
continue to do
yeah.
this because it was always awkward. You technically could actually heal allies outside of combat if you didn't have an enemy. You just have to awkwardly target the Water Blast projectile to land at their feet. But now you get to actually like just freely target them if they need the healing, so you
That's
get
good.
that
And is it still
guaranteed
AoE
heal.
around the ally, do you think?
I imagine it is
Yeah.
because they have not been like.
Oh, there's loads of good
They just
changes
add
on
the
this.
ally target stuff. But yeah, I love the staff changes from a support perspective. I think it is very strange that Frozen Ground grants Frost Aura
Why?
when you use it, just because I
Oh,
liked
because it's not a
the.
lot. All right.
To have
I
to
liked
do the blast.
and I liked that you had to understand the game mechanic of combo fields.
I'm gonna
to
think they're
get
gonna start changing that.
a lot out of it, which is like why
no.
why
I think
kind
this
of
is a sign of things to come.
Oh
which
no.
is so sad. Like, why would
sorry.
you start to
I do.
reduce the one? Not, I shouldn't say the one, but
Well,
one
it's
of
still
an
there,
interesting.
isn't it?
It still
gonna be
is
a-
there, but now
Field
it's
is
no
there.
longer the
now you
only
get
way
two
to get it.
I think it's going to give you. I think you're going to see this happening more because we've seen this throughout the entire balance patch. Like, I'm looking at the whole picture. There is a lot
Yeah.
of ease and a lot of communication of what things do. Because I think a lot of the game's quality is lost in translation in the game, which is true for a lot of the things like quests and achievements and all that kind of stuff. As a side note, but it's with the skills as well. I think, blasting fields and MMO general players don't get Guild Wars 2 and they switch off. A lot of people just actually do.
Now-
And it's hard for them to understand what the hell's going on most of the time. It's the literal
But
feedback
here's the
I get
issue.
often.
Here's the
I
issue
don't
I
think
have
it's
with this, though.
I think it's bad though. I think it's bad. I prefer combo fields.
I
Wait,
think
what are
they're
you
going to
doing?
keep combo fields in. I think they're keeping combo fields in. I think that's not going to be an issue. Giving
purity of
the,
purpose.
Sure.
This is my issue.
Sure.
It's like Frozen Ground is a controlling ability. I think
Yeah.
all I actually ever wanted Frozen Ground to have added to it is slow. If it chilled and slow, which would be a very impactful
Now-
control. But now they're
now-
like, here's a defensive element of Frost Aura.
Right. So here's my issue with that is fine. I would be happy with them giving Frost Aura, and the fact that you could give yourself Frost Aura again when you do like a leap skill, or if you could give it AoE to people, that's great too, because then that helps with Tempest. You give your healing and stuff to people when you do a blast finisher. But why give it to you if it's just for the defensive aspect when Frost Aura is actually quite good when you transmute it, but there's no way to transmute it on staff.
Because they just wanted to give... It feels like unnecessary buffs in a weird way.
It's an unnecessary buff that's not very useful.
In PvP, it's going to be useful.
It might be.
Sure, yeah, sure.
I
In
mean,
1v World, it's
little
going to be
window.
massively useful.
For a singular Frost Aura on yourself?
I mean, I think, well, for protection of yourself.
It does
it's
share
pretty
to
good.
allies.
I thought it was an isn't it an AoE
That's true.
thing?
With the share.
If it's
with
5
share.
targets and you've got a bunch of
And it's a
staff
heal,
allies,
and it's an extra
that
heal. It's
aura
basically
is-
an extra
It's
heal
not a
for
heal.
Tempest.
It's,
For Tempest.
Oh, if you're on a Tempest, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's an extra heal for Tempest.
that aura is
like
pretty
from
good.
yeah, I think from a thematic standpoint, let me bring my true wheelhouse in here now that I'm not on the spot for breaking it all down here right off the bat. I think thematically, I mean, like you both said, I think like everybody said, staff on an elementalist, it's always felt kind of strange to me because as an elementalist, I mean, Guild Wars 2 subverts a lot of expectations, right? But we haven't always had what you would just consider to be like the mage, you know, I've got my staff and I weave arcane energy. And that's not to say that it's a bad thing. It's not to say that, you know, them having these classes that are like combat spellcasters and that oftentimes have a very strong feel of like, you know, hey, well, I do wield the power of the elements, but also I can use daggers or like that stuff I think is super cool. But I like that they gave these buffs to this. And I do actually like having some of these auras play a role. I mean, of course, there's a bigger discussion to be had about, you know, combo fields, payoff. Is this something they keep in the game? Is this something that you need to actually be keeping track of? And yet you would think that if that was really the case when we had like Seitong, for example, and we've got the training arena there, you would have thought there would have been a whole breakdown about that. And we would have seen them talking much more about combo fields and everything else that goes into it and how that should be a part of your gameplay to try and get those effects. I mean, when you compare that to something like Genshin Impact, right, where you have similar things with the elemental characters and the interplay between elements, that's like a crucial, critical combination that is taught to you super early on and is one of the most fundamental things about the gameplay and how you know, get more proficient at it and in the compositions of characters that you might use and how their elements counterplay off of each other. So like in Guild Wars 2, I think that it's a really cool thing in the game, but obviously it's not something that many MMOs have, and I think that if they were going to lean into it, they really needed to lean into it at some point. But all of this to say, Elementalist, I think, has the potential for stuff like that and or a class or a realization where you are using these elements and they interplay and you get these buffs and you have combo fields, and that's a whole crux of an elite spec or something. So to see some of the elements, I think, affect characters or just like apply these things and then boost stuff like healing, I actually like in the case of Elementalist. Did that all make sense? I think
yes,
that
it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I just thought of something.
What?
Okay.
That's something. Tell us.
So I was just talking about how you get these Frost Aura and you can't use it on staff, but you can use like an offhand dagger. You could transmute is the only place you can transmute the Frost Aura. They added the change to transmute Earth Aura, which now gives stability instead of protection, because you get protection out the wazoo as a Tempest, but now you can actually give stability as well, which is huge buff for Tempest. Now and that's for anything actually. Also, you could use it on Catalyst. It's part of the core staff. Now, we don't have an arcane elite skill, do we, as an elementalist?
Nope.
You know, it'd be a fun arcane elite skill.
A transmute button at any time.
A transmute button. Transmute all your auras.
That'd be kinda interesting.
Auramancer, what for Tempest?
For anybody. So there's
That'd be good for Tempest.
there's a lot of different auras.
It would have
that
to be a
the
little bit
ability
more exciting.
Oh, I don't know. That's pretty.
No, that's pretty good. Because you could change like a might stacking aura like fire into
I mean,
frost and
actually,
have defense
Elementalist has some
and
of the
chill.
worst elite skills, so you're right. It would feel fine.
Oh my gosh.
It does though. It does.
No,
Griff
I
is
think
right.
it'd be
Like they have some
if
awful
you use
ones.
if
Other
you
than
press a button and
other
like
than
five
rebound,
different
rebound's good.
auras use their transmute skills at the same time, that would be very powerful.
Yeah. That's actually a really interesting
Now-
idea.
Stack
I kind of
auras.
like this.
Here's a question from chat that I do have to ask here. Because for anybody who's listening who genuinely has no idea what in the world we're talking about, I think it's important. Pop quiz, what is a transmute skill?
Okay, so auras
that's
I'll let you
are
take this one, Boots.
auras are something that you give to yourself or allies. Basically, if you do a combo field and then you do a combo finisher, or some other skills actually just straight up give you auras. They're
You can
like
charge as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that could give you or your allies auras, and they're like little buffs that stay on you for 4 seconds. They're like little things around you.
And bubbles.
Little bubbles that stay around you for 4 seconds. They're not boons, but they might give you boons if people hit you. They might do other things. They might reduce the damage to you. They might burn people when they hit you, etc. But if you had certain skills on your weapons, which elementalists do, that would flat out just give you that aura, like on Dagger 4 water, that gives you just straight up frost aura. Dagger focus 4 in fire is the flame aura. Earth 3 in staff is the earth aura. And am I forgetting anything? Lightning
Dagger,
aura on Dagger 3.
Dagger's aura. Yeah.
Dagger 3 is lightning aura.
Yeah.
Shocking aura. So those particular skills on those particular weapons, they're dispersed over all the weapons, and since Ellies can't switch weapons, it's a little annoying. So at any given time, you could only really transmute 2 auras, because you could have on-hand dagger and offhand
If you
focus.
have dual dagger, yeah.
If you had dual dagger or dagger
focus.
you usually only could do 1, or sometimes you could do 2. And that what it does is it ends the 4-second duration of the aura on you and does like a special little skill on top of that, and then puts your original thing on cooldown. And so that's what the transmute is. But it's like, you need a specific weapon. You need to be in a specific element of that specific weapon in order to get it done. But you have auras coming from all different sources, usually as an elementalist. So you only get to transmute very rarely compared to the amount of auras you get. So I thought it would be really cool if...
And transmutes are explosive attacks.
Yes, they're like, they take the aura on you and go... And it's like an AoE.
You have a thing and you press it and it explodes.
Exactly. So like the frost aura turns into like a water burst that heals. The shocking aura turns into like a dazing or a stunning burst that does a little bit of damage and stuns. The fire one does fire damage and does damage.
It's very good.
And the earth one does damage and I think gives you now stability.
How cool would it be to have some sort of elite spec that was like transmuter or something, and you would have like a unique little
Did you say what is it going to be called?
Transmuter.
Transmuter.
I thought you
Is
said
that bad?
transmuterer. I was like
Muterer.
muterer.
No.
I thought that would have
and you'd
been
have
quite
some
cool.
kind of like
it.
unique little icon that would be like your transmutation circle or something. And whenever you had one of those auras on you, the like corresponding aura would like light up, and then you would know that you could like hit your thing to try and get some sort of special proc for transmuting that. And I don't know, I mean, like there'd be a lot they'd have to do with it, like maybe with the elements you could wield and how that would like force some of those, or if you were able to get like all of the auras somehow simultaneously using some other kind of skill, you could do some sort of huge detonation chain.
Yeah.
That would be really neat.
Yeah, I agree. Like if it detonates it transmutes all your auras at the same time, and as if you get all the auras. Well, I mean, would you have to also get light and dark aura?
No, that'd be for Guardian Elite spec. I would love to have a Guardian Elite, because like light and dark aura are like kind of. I would love to see more attention to that.
I don't think those have transmutes, right?
No,
'Cause there's no
other aura except the elemental ones. But yeah, staff. I think staff had a lot of improvements with its support. But some people have mentioned in chat like they enjoy having that very mage-like feel, and I will say, this isn't something that was mentioned, but still kind of more of an expectation on my own part that wasn't met. I would have loved to have seen more attention to damage and fire, air, and earth. Like Meteor Shower for forever has been nerfed and increased in size and all that stuff.
I think you should do that while moving.
I would much rather have a more consistent attack that isn't about like just randomized hits. The only reason it works for Revenant with the Kala, the F3, is because it's in a relatively small area. But Meteor Shower is just so large, and it feels
It's
like
in a small area, but also there's a certain amount of hits that that no matter what target the thing.
Yeah. And so for Meteor Shower, it feels so RNG dependent, and you spend so much time in the cast time, so it doesn't feel like you're getting any
It doesn't feel
reward
like a Guild Wars
for
2
the
skill at all.
No, it doesn't. It feels like a siege skill.
It feels
like something
an
that you
old
would just
school
use in World
World
vs.
of
World.
Warcraft, like, you know.
It is what you use in World vs. World.
Skill.
Yeah, that's the only time you would actually use it.
It's decent in World vs. World.
Yeah, I would like to have more consistency with that skill, to have like maybe just a giant meteor strike like in Final Fantasy XIV or in World vs. World, where it's a bit more of a guaranteed attack for a larger cast time.
Or just a big field of fire that does
Well, we love
less
fun. We got
things.
that.
I
you know.
mean, it's not
We
that
got-
big.
Meteor Shower looks cool.
Does it?
It can
No,
look cooler.
it doesn't look.
It can look cooler. You need bigger
They
meteors.
reduced
You're right.
it.
You need bigger
They
meteors.
reduced it.
If you wanted to
because
see it
was too
looking
much.
cool, watch the original
Yes.
Elementalist class
Yes.
showcase trailer, because that's actually how
remember.
the skill used to function. It was like only 4 meteors.
They changed it
but
for
it was
PvP.
yeah, I don't know why. Actually, if
there
they
was
just
too much.
reverted back to that, where it was just 4 bigger strikes in an area.
I still don't know why they did that as well, because no one used stuff in PvP, but they were like, to make it more visible in PvP and World v World, and I was like, no one used it.
Yeah, I like the cast time.
'cause
I
it was
actually
bad.
like having those big moments where you have
Yeah,
that,
that looks
theme
good.
as what Rook and I also really enjoy is like where you feel like a mage casting a long channeled ability. It just for the cast
Elementalist
time and
is
the
off.
payoff, I don't think it is where it should be. But I do like the support changes for staff. I think that was really cool.
Yep.
Yep.
What about Vindicator? Do we care about that much?
Some nerfs to Vindicator.
Mm.
Just power nerfs across the board, and then they nerf the healing. I think on the elite skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Impact.
I mean,
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
I don't really
I
know much
honestly
about
I haven't
Vindicator
played
anymore.
enough Vindicator to
Yeah,
care.
same.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's where I am as well, because I play the game. I have less time now, so it's like it's difficult. I focus in on my classes a bit more now.
I would play it more if it had access to quickness and alacrity. Because if I'm going into a raid or a strike mission, I end up just filling those roles. But with Vindicator, you don't have that. But with Kala, you do, which is one reason I might play Revenant. But
The reason why I play Revenant is so I can just use the dwarf abilities and hear a dwarf talk.
those are
Basically
fun.
it.
I would love. When are they gonna update Hammer Revenant?
I don't know, because
When
they
are they
should.
gonna do that?
Because Hammer Rev is awesome.
Hammer
fun.
Revenant-
One hammer at a time. They've done the Guardian now.
They
which
did
is
Guardian.
really cool.
Hopefully next one we'll get.
By the way, those were
Revenant.
cool Guardian hammers.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Genuinely, that's so
excited.
cool. And I love that you can like mark the target now and then just like go to obliterate them immediately, just like
Yeah.
teleport, jump to them. That's so good.
Y'all.
Yeah, and you could.
Wait, does that count as a shadow step? I wonder
that
what
would
that
be
is
great.
categorized as,
Wait, which
because
skill was it
willbenders
again?
are going to be wild.
Yeah.
Hammer
Monster
willbenders, because you have traits that interact with teleports and shadow steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Y'all.
banish skill, I actually didn't realize the full because 5 seconds is good, because like you would use that, so you would go for you can mark them, you can put down the wall, and then you can port on them, but you can also use what's the skill, the focus skill as well, so you can explode on them. As like that whole thing is just going to be sick. That burst is good.
Yeah, it's
Because
pretty- it's pretty
all
sweet.
it is judge's intervention, because that's what you do. You just go for the wind up, and while you were winding up, you
Yeah, you
would
do
use
judge's
judge's
intervention,
intervention.
yeah.
And now it's like, so you don't even have to go for judge. Well, you still
You
go
can do
for
it twice.
Stonebreak.
You do
It's
judge
true.
intervention
Yeah.
so that you hit with the banish.
Yeah,
You surprise them, hit them with the banish while
kill
you're
someone else.
teleporting
You
in.
knock them
and
out
then,
so far.
Yeah.
Oh
keep on knocking them.
that's such absolutely. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's sick.
Okay, it
Oh, that
seems
build is
like
so fun.
the wording says it's a teleport, and the trait on Willbender specifically says shadow stepping. So it
I
might not
think it still
interact.
counts.
I
because
don't know, because I think it's
I
different.
think judge's intervention counts as a shadow step, even though it's a teleport.
I don't know.
Why is there a difference between a shadow step and a teleport?
I don't know if there is a difference. I don't know if there is a difference.
Maybe because
there is.
Well, yeah, because shadow step is you can go back to. Isn't all shadow steps you go back to that point, or is it all shadow steps?
All shadow. I think thieves are just shadow steps, and then
yeah, because you would teleport back, isn't it?
I think all of thieves teleports are shadow steps.
It says okay, it is different. Shadow step is a mechanic that allows the user to instantly move from one location to another. Unlike teleport, most shadow step skills require a target.
There you go.
Okay.
But this also requires a target.
This also requires a target, yeah.
I'm confused.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if we caught it while we were talking. Oh, no, it was PvE only. I remember now. Lightning Flash on Elementalist. The cooldown reduced to 20 seconds from 40. But I think it's only in PvE. So I was like, I thought I got excited for a while, and then I realized that it was not that exciting. That was all. You may continue.
Anything else that's kind of like a highlight?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean,
what other classes were there?
We talked about the big thing with Mesmer and Guardian.
Was there
the
anything in
elemental
Ranger?
stuff, mantras. Oh, Ranger did have some stuff. It didn't like blow my mind, but it was fine. You know?
It seems to be just a lot of
the
quality of life
Entangle.
to Soul Beast. Entangle. Yeah, I'm not gonna go to PvP.
That's only PvP in World versus World, but that's still pretty huge because Entangle is really strong. So
yeah, that
I'm not playing PvP.
ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I just don't like PvP games where you can't move. And
You could break the entangles.
No, but there's that trait on where you can just use aura attacks, and like there's the mini entangle as well, and you get the entangle from the flipping
It's a lot.
thingy
In
majig.
World vs. World, you could easily perma-lobe, but
having to change a
worst.
target and not just use a stun break is such a big ask in this game when everything is decided in a half of a second.
AoE.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, most of the changes seem to be relevant and have the most impact in PvP and World versus World, at least for core Ranger stuff, as far as I saw. I mean, maybe there are some other things that are super worth commenting on. Muddy terrain, I know that seemed to be something that you all went like,
mentioned,
oh.
yeah, I don't
Also,
like
an immobilizing skill.
yeah, there's too much CC from Rangers as it is, and they just increased it. No idea why.
Yeah.
That's when they were removing those traits that reduce the cooldown of certain utility skills, I love that. But I also don't believe that it needed to be a direct, okay, we'll just reduce the cooldown baseline.
All of them.
I think it should have been a case-by-case basis where it was appropriate, and especially in competitive modes, hard crowd control effects like immobilize, dazes, stuns, those elements I think should be looked at with a microscope, like very, very carefully, because they can make you really hate just playing the game.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of skills to counter those things in the game. So, I mean, of course, learning that, but I think it is a cautionary tale for any and all games in PvP where if you have immobs, if you have CC, if you have anything like that, players have to feel empowered enough to be able to counter them the vast majority of the time, or like the tipping point, right, starts to happen where the enjoyment of the mode and the counterplays, if it's too much and you feel like more often than not you're just sitting there useless because you've used all your cooldowns, you have no other recourse, it's like the enjoyment starts to just sharply dip when you start to hit that point and then tip over. But I mean, it is something about Guild Wars 2 where, in theory, you have what you need to deal with a lot of times, so skill does play a large role in that. But again, like, you can't go too far, like everybody was saying, because if you start with some of these classes that have a lot of that, then before you know it, people are getting stun locked left and right, and it's just super infuriating, and no amount of stuff in your kit is going to help you. So
there's no diminishing returns in Guild Wars 2 really for that as well. There never has been, so that's a big part of the issue, because a lot of PvP games back in the day, there were diminishing returns for being stun locked so often, so you couldn't be stunned so much or like immobilized, whatever language the game made, like so much over time, so you couldn't do that. Guild Wars 2 just doesn't really have that, other than like, if you think about some condition removal, I guess, or the boon, which just ran out of my head, but like, yeah,
Resistance.
Resistance, there you go, thank you. So that's the only kind of diminishing return I think they added.
And then, I mean, Soul Soul Beast is getting some of those across the board cooldown reductions as well for PvP specifically. So stances and stuff, you get that reduction. Yeah, it seemed to me like Ranger mostly the biggest impact things were PvP or world versus world, and I think we'll just have to see how that pans out. You know, I think even
Other
they acknowledged
people will
it.
have to see.
Other people will
I'm
have
not
to
gonna
see.
be.
I don't go in there.
Yeah, I'm not a big Ranger
but
player. There's a good person to watch would be, he raids me. God, I forgot his name. He's ridiculously good. Nope.
Shadow.
Nope.
I know Muckluck does a lot of Ranger.
Yeah, but what's his name? It's oh my god, reader will have it anyway. Just pay attention to chat. Probably no pressure.
One thing I want to get opinions on. I know Boots, Elementalist, the two things that
Blindside.
limit mobility.
Blindside, yeah. It's Shadowfall, Blindside. That's what I was saying, Shadowfall.
yeah.
Yeah, that's his other name in game.
Oh, is it?
Blindside.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay. You know
Okay.
better. Oh, good. Sorry.
But yeah, with Elementalist, they are changing to abilities where you'll no longer go past your target. You'll just stop at your target.
Oh.
I don't love that personally.
Yeah.
I think it is a little limiting in terms of the potential of the particular skills.
I mean, you
because
could still do it without targeting the
but
target.
it,
You could
it's just like
untarget and
you
then
have
do the
to
same thing you did
untarget,
before.
do
Yeah,
it,
so
then
it's a little bit more
retarget.
difficult, but you still have the ability to do it.
I don't know if I would
can.
use burning
However-
speed and actually target many people anyway at the same time.
Well, burning speed is oftentimes like an engage ability. It's not burning retreat, so you have your dagger, and being able to go through people can sometimes actually give you
No, it's quite
increased
good.
I use it for
coverage
the,
in an
fact,
area.
the combo
So
field
people have
mostly
been-
anyway.
Yeah.
People have been using it in many different ways and positioning themselves perfectly for certain things to do. But I think you could still do that. It takes like one extra button press to do it. But now you also have the ability to go straight at the person instead. Like you have a choice now.
Ukon says in chat, listen to this. As someone who has played Double Dagger Elliot, they must thank Church Christ for this shit. Like, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. It's like a
I
church.
don't, because I think there does come a point to like understanding skill and
You can just press
knowing
tab,
that
though, or
positioning.
escape.
Well, I mean,
Then
I
there's
will
also
say
some options auto target, and then if you don't have that,
You don't auto target. You can't.
Yeah.
well, some people wouldn't know that. I know, but like
I will say
Spread
this
the word.
much.
Do an auto target video proof. There is some content for you right there. How to take off auto target.
Yeah, I will say this much. I find that oftentimes for me it is kind of infuriating in Guild Wars 2, not that there aren't ways to deal with this, but targeting who I want to target, what I want to target, going exactly where I need to for target. The amount of times that I have yeeted myself off of a cliffside with like Great Sword 3, is it? Like on Guardian, like on Dragon Hunter. The amount of times that I've had those things happen, especially paired with some of the unreliability of other systems. Like, granted, again, like I'm saying, it's not that you can't find ways to do this or you can't like navigate it better, but I don't necessarily think that it's just purely skill. I think there is something that is a little clunky about it and that sometimes is frustrating. So like with this change, I mean, I think that you still have that flexibility to adapt if you want. But I do like that at least it gives you the option for control, because you have the option now, if you're able to get that exact target, you know what you're doing, to make the decision, do I want to just go to this target or do I want to go beyond them? And so having that option versus like just always knowing that no matter what, like it's gonna be this and I can't stop it and it's just gonna go. I mean, like in some senses, yes, do you get a sense of that distance and that traversal, and as part of using that skill that you start to learn more reflexively to do it, sure. But I think having the option to not go that far if you don't want to is nice. Of course, I think it's going to be a bit of an adjustment, but personally, I like it. But
I agree with you. I think that's how I feel about it now too. Technically, the option was there originally, but you had to be running Lightning Flash because then you could use the thing and then teleport directly on top of the target to make sure it lands. But now you don't need to always have Lightning Flash for that particular combo.
Also, you can line up your combo fields a bit better as well. I think sometimes, depending. I mean, it wasn't down what they probably want to do. It's counted as a leap as well. So technically, leaps. If you think about sword for warrior, for example, when you hit the leap, like you have to. If you don't, it's pretty much the same.
It goes to the target.
Like, you know, you can use leap and you can go. You don't target and you go past them. Or you use leap.
Except there's no AoE component for the leap.
So they're basically just bringing in the same mechanic for another ability and streamlining it and just making it the same, which is what they're trying to do. So it makes sense in terms of their design
I think it's
ideals.
fine. I think it's interesting.
You know what I mean?
like the idea that you, without having to untarget, we're able to go through the target every time, because in PvP it's nice to like go behind the target and make them have to turn around to face you, and it kind of it's like but you can still do that. I think
also
it's
for damage potential, I think I'll just probably end up running into situations where I want to get more damage in a group, but I wonder how the field is actually going to be positioned, if it's going to stop behind you and you won't get that burning damage, which might feel worse, but it depends on how they are positioning this field when you end.
That's a big thing in PvP as well, actually. That makes a lot of sense, because you're keeping half of the field off the point if they're standing in the middle, because naturally people just stand in the middle of it. So you're going to only have it in the middle. Then you have to be very specific with where you blast, and you might not even blast on the point, which means you lose capture point advantage
That's why
as well.
I was more concerned
sense.
with these two abilities, because it's not as simple as like a warrior rush, because these have effects that continue to trail behind you.
That's the problem,
and so if you don't adapt to it, you're actually going to be getting less out of this ability than you would if it was like that and you learn to know how far you're going to go.
I think I'm used to that warrior leap though, so I might be, for me that would probably be okay, but for different people I don't know, maybe.
I wonder how Lightning Flash interacts with it now, like with if you have a person targeted. Like, if you use it halfway in between your thing, does it mess up with the targeting decisions? And I don't know. Like, if you
might get less damage out of this in PvE too. Like, if your path does not go through the enemy.
What happens if you use this ability, the leap, and then halfway to your target you teleport behind them?
Yeah.
It would be good if it would be good if you did the leap to them, and part of that trail just went behind them a little tiny bit. Like it.
Yeah, but then would you like reverse direction and come from behind? Is my question. Or?
I know that, but like that would be more difficult, wouldn't it? I mean,
I don't know what's going to happen.
Like if
I don't think they're going to do that.
Like with burning speed, if you just get to your target, but the path still extends beyond you, that would make sense because you get the AoE potential out of it and that damage guarantee. I would like a little ring in the end. I would have liked to have seen how this was actually shown in game, because there's a lot of like a very simple sentence, like you stop there, but like the skill itself has like lingering effects. There's a path that it follows and it will leave immobilizing and burning. So that's why I was more so just like interested to see how this is going to animation.
Work. It makes sense. I think it's makes sense to be concerned about such things.
Yeah, that was the last thing that kind of like popped out to me in this balance patch.
Let me just quickly check as well. There was maybe one more thing.
There was one thing. Guardian, the sword spin.
Oh yeah,
that'll
nice.
just be fun.
Well,
that's gonna be fun. Wait, that's all. I'm excited to become a spinny top. The spinny top tornado. I'm ready for it.
I too want to spin.
There's no movement penalty or slowness reduction now. So when you do your circle swing, your greatsword like swing, you're just gonna be like.
You can just move now.
Super speed.
Well, you used to be like reduced speed by like I think it was like 75%.
Wait, now you can just so you can super speed swing with quickness.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Spin to
it's
win.
Gonna be like it's gonna be like Axe 5 on Warrior. We'll have spin-off competitions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's
so this one is just more consistent and throws out projectiles.
Yeah.
Oh my good lord.
I'm ready.
So I'm gonna run a greatsword hammer build on Guardian the day this comes out.
Sure, yeah.
Go for it.
That's gonna be sick. Okay. Just one quick look and then we might head off. Oh, Dragon Hunter had a few things.
Yeah.
Reduce trap cooldowns.
The traps.
It's big in PvP because it's pretty big at the moment as well. Otherwise. Oh, the fear on thingamajig.
Necro.
Necro.
That
Unblockable
also,
fear.
once
Hello, Doom.
again, like
I'm not sure
the
about
CC.
the
Oh, yeah, the other
necessity of
necro
it being
thing.
unblockable.
Unblockable fear, yeah, that's worrisome. But also the other
Weird.
necro thing was it no longer corrupts.
Dark Pact.
Yeah. It no longer corrupts.
Oh,
it
wait a
only
minute.
removes.
Oh, it just
boons.
removes. It doesn't corrupt at all.
Yeah, because
Oh, that was
they're
the
adding
skill.
an extra one. So
Oh,
instead of 2 boons, it's
no.
3 boons, but they only remove and not
Oh,
corrupt.
that's bollocks. That's actually
yeah.
bollocks.
Yeah,
I use that Billy all the time.
Not anymore, buddy.
Oh, massive
It is
wankers.
very strong because it is very strong.
Yeah,
because
but
it's
you're
a
still
boon
gonna use it.
Yeah, but it
corrupt,
wasn't
it's an
like-
immob, and it does a decent amount of damage.
Yeah, but in
It's
PvP,
pretty
no one
strong.
used it because Necros would always get wrecked by everything. So they just used stun breaks instead. It was like a stun break or that, and it's like I used that because it was fun. Oh no, I love getting fears off like corrupting stability though. Like that's part of my. I'm gonna have to use Axe more now. See, Axe becomes even more useful, Griff.
There you go.
Eh.
I'm gonna get
be
you into
better.
this. I'm gonna do a new series on YouTube. It's gonna be called Jebro Gets Kroof into Axe for Necro. It's gonna be about 10 minutes long. It's gonna be when the new
You know,
Lich
I
form
would want
comes.
I want them to do like something with like a
refix.
virtuoso. You know, when like virtuoso auto attacks after a certain
Maybe-
number, it does like a flurry. I'd like that for Axe Necro, like your auto attack. I think visually, I think that'd be cool.
Oh, okay.
More,
yeah.
more
But
slashes.
Necro is more
because
like
it's single target. Also,
Ding, ding,
it's
ding.
also a single target. So I wish there was more axe buffs because it is kind of weak for being a very single target focused weapon.
But it also is like mid range as
Nevertheless.
well. I kind of like it.
Yeah,
I've
it's not
always
even
loved
long range.
I've
It
liked
doesn't
the
pierce.
effect of it though. It looks cool. It does
Look
look cool.
at Deadeye and Longbow Dragon Hunter and Ranger. You get 1200, 1500
Yeah, but it's the
piercing.
axe, isn't it? You can change it into a throwing axe.
I
Actually,
feel
throwing
like
axe is
you
more-
really, even on Ranger, the axe bounces, but I digress.
Well, I want to actually. There was a really good thing that came out of this podcast as well. A good idea for something I want to do in future, which I would love to get feedback on from viewers and also us. What I want to do is a show for each class, but we come up with the ultimate opposite spec of what we imagine the class should be. So imagine.
What?
So listen to this, right? So there was an idea I had, and
A
it
magic
was
list elementalist.
yeah, like a major elementalist. No, so a guardian that is a spec which actually just focuses around fear. And we come up with a name for
okay,
it,
okay.
and we come up with all of the things for it, like the abilities, the weapons, and all this kind of
Oh,
stuff.
I have mine done for
What
Green.
if I would love it if
Well,
we
then
could
bring
do
it,
like
yeah.
we could do a pitch room or something
Yeah.
where we could pick like Guardian
Ooh.
for the week or something, and then
I
each
like
of
it.
us could pitch an elite spec for it.
That might be a
and-
lot of planning.
I mean, it would take a little bit of time for us to theorize and
actually
come up
have
with
to-
something, but
We would actually have to prepare for our shows.
I would do it though. I think that'd be fun. I'd make a
actually
Pinterest
have-
mood board and
Do I have
everything.
time? I mean, you guys. Did you say you have a mood board for this?
I would make a
You would
Pinterest
make
mood
a
board
mood board?
and
Oh, wow.
everything.
Maybe I could do it if you three do it, then I'll judge. But like, and we'll
Wow,
actually-
Jebro.
Well, I ain't got time.
Trying to get out of the work.
But we can
Okay.
also we can do this during stream. But I like that pitch idea. And also we could ask for a theme from chat as well, from like the community who watch Lightbringers, and they could come up with what would you like us to come up with for an elite spec class? And because I like those shows we had where we were thinking about what elite
I
specs
enjoy
classes
elite
could be.
speculation.
They
I
were
do
very
too.
cool. They were some of my faves.
I already have 9
I know you do.
preloaded in my Google Docs for.
Nice.
I'm gonna later when expansion 4 is nearing.
Wow.
Okay.
For a second, you
I
thought
always-
Boots had cat. Yeah, I know. I've been thinking that for a while because of the thing behind it.
Oh yeah, the blur in
Yeah.
the painting kind of matches your hair color.
I've been thinking that. I thought it was like one of
I don't
those
know why
cheap
it's-
party hats from like a Christmas cracker.
I
But
wonder why
like,
it's only blurring, it's only unblurring
because it's
those
that
two.
close to your head.
Yeah,
I guess
very
it
And
thinks
close.
it's
it's
the
part of
color.
my hair.
Well, it can't determine the difference of color between the
Yeah.
because it's similar browns. You have the brown of mountain landscape.
That's correct.
You do. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Mountain landscape brown.
Yeah, that's my hair color. That's what I write down on my license.
I got a license. Oh,
Yeah, my driver's license.
interesting. Is that
Mountain
with
landscape
me, I
brown.
don't have to write that. I
Yeah.
just write.
You say
no
Bob
hair.
Ross, titanium white. that would be for Rook. Titanium white.
Love it. Love it. Okay, I think we're going to end things there, people. Good times.
Ew.
Good times indeed. Again, we didn't do an intro, so we'll do an outro. Didn't have the show last week, so appreciate all the views and stuff on the YouTubes. For everyone catching up on the shows, we did have one on Anchor, which came out, so we're up to, I think this was episode 40 actually of I think this was episode 40 of season 2. There you go. Special fun times. So if you do want to support the podcast, twitch.tv/JebroUnity, the VODs are always there. They're on youtube.com/JebroUnity, as well as anchor.fm/JebroUnity. I should have named it Lightbringers. It doesn't make any sense why I put my name. It's just because of ease of finding all the things. Go and check out the podcast things there. There's also places where you can drop comments, reviews. Massively appreciate any reviews on like Apple Music and Google and everything else. And rate 5 stars, do all the things. Appreciate it massively. Otherwise, we've had 3 awesome guests. Rookery, tell us what you do,
Hello, I'm Rook, aka Rookery. That's Rookuri. I love MMORPGs, so I play a lot of Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy 14 over on my channel, twitch.tv Rookery. You can also find more content, story, lore, my experiences through games, all that kind of stuff over on my YouTube, which is also Rookery. And you can keep in touch with me on social media at Rookery_ on Twitter.
Excelente. Wow,
Yeah, you're getting good at that.
that was very
And
refined.
done.
No. Yes. Okay. Good. Excelente. 4 out of 7.5.
Excellent
Proof. Tell us.
4 out of 7.5.
I think it was more like a 7.5 out of 7.5.
No,
Thank
you
you.
don't actually know the scale yet because we've only we've only
What is
given
it,
one
golf?
person.
Just said it was out of 7.5.
Is it
No,
golf?
but I haven't rated other people.
Is it like
okay.
less points equal a win?
Oh yeah,
Ah,
it's,
it's
a
actually
yeah.
closer to the mean is the best.
Why was it a 3.25? So 3.75.
Welcome to the stream. My name is Bjork.
Just kidding. Hi
Bjork.
everyone.
Bjork's
I almost
a
said my real
Finland,
name.
isn't
I'm Connor. Hi. I'm Crew.
Hello,
I
I'm
do a lot of
Daniel.
YouTube videos.
Hello.
And
Hello, I'm Connor.
hi everyone.
Well, who
Me,
is
Connor.
Does that feel
Why
weird?
does that feel
Welcome back
so
to-
weird?
Does that feel weird?
Names.
Do you know that I
strange.
introduce
So weird.
myself to my clients as Jebro sometimes? Still?
Oh, it's
I still
weird.
do
That
that?
is
And they're
tough.
like, I'm here
I've
to
been
see
using my-
Daniel?
I've been using
oh,
my real name more often, so it's been slipping in. But hi, if you want to find me, I'm over on YouTube at Kroof. I'm also here on Twitch at Kroof, streaming like every other day of the week, doing some Guild Wars 2 right now, but I've also been very much obsessed with Final Fantasy 14, so doing a lot of MMO content. Thank you so very much for having me. I always love talking about balance, and have a lovely, lovely bath.
Thank you.
I can't have a
How'd
bath
you know
at
I was
the
gonna take a
moment.
bath? Yeah.
Because I read Jebro on chat, so I was like,
Oh.
ooh, Jebro takes
Have a
baths.
great bath tonight, Crew. Thank
I
you.
can't have a bath though because I've got my tattoo and you can't have baths for tattoos
Oh,
for like 2 or 3
shit.
weeks.
Have you thought about chopping your arm off? I don't know. It's like
I just got a
Wrap
tattoo. It
your
costs a lot of money.
entire arm. Wrap your
So-
entire arm in plastic.
Are you
I mean,
just
I
not
can't.
bathing?
No, I have showers. You just don't.
You're
you
like,
don't
'cause
put
by the smell
water.
of it,
so
you
you have a
most
shower
certainly
like
are
that.
not.
You have a
You
shower like that.
filthy.
Hey, look! I just got it finished. It's like I'm not
But it's
wrecking this
clear,
thing.
it's like a very dirty arm though right now.
It's, no, it's
stinky,
not.
smelly, bad, dirty.
No.
filthy.
You have
Yeah,
to
because
wash
you can't
it
get it
separately.
wet, so probably that armpit's
You
very
can
stinky.
get it wet. You can get it wet. You just have to water. You just have to like be nice to it and kind.
I can smell it over
A
here.
bit patty.
Yeah.
got that Elon Musk.
Uh,
Yeah, that smells bad. It smells really bad. It smells like capitalism and patriarchy. Anyway, boots. I won't go
yes,
into
that's
that.
me.
Yes. Start getting me onto like Harry Potter in a minute as well, and I'll go off on one.
No, we don't got time for that.
We don't have
That's
time
a
for
food
that.
podcast.
7 actually. Podcast series in future. Boots, tell us what you do. What you do.
Hello, I'm Boots. You could find me at World Avengers on YouTube. I'm also, unfortunately, on Twitter and World Defenders as well. Yeah, I do videos about Guild Wars 2. You know what I want to do?
No.
I want to do all the adventures and try to get on the leaderboard for all of them.
You can face off against Lara and Mighty Teapot.
Oh, is that what you?
I believe.
Yeah, Lara's finally a fungus among us.
Oh, but that's just fungus. I want to do every single
But,
one.
oh, beat him.
Yeah.
Destroy them. Take
You
them
won't
down.
beat
Dude.
us though on the boat one.
I know.
I was
Well,
watching
not
that.
as long as I'm
gonna
just
put
on the
that-
leaderboard,
I've got
it's
that.
fine. Oh
I've got
my
that ready
God.
for a short. I found the clip the other day, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm using this because it was what was it? I think all of us beat you because we're just at the front of the boat.
Because
on
yeah,
the-
you were riding in my boat and I was driving from the back, and so you all got like 0.1 second ahead of me.
I would love to do that.
Yeah,
Love to do that.
that's
Actually,
good.
I think we can do another adventures stream for sure. I want to do some more gameplay streams for Lightbringers. So if anyone does have any requests, please let us know. But yeah, please go and follow Boots as well. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here and taking time out of your schedule to do all the things. If you do want to support me or the stream and Lightbringers and all the things to do here, Lightbringers podcast, just Google it. You'll find it. It's in a ton of places. Twitch.tv/JebroUni on the weekends is when I mostly stream, as well as the podcast on Friday, which is between sometimes 12 p.m. Pacific, as we found out today, or more often than not 1 p.m. Pacific. Otherwise, we will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Have a bath, as Recruit said. It's a very important thing to do with your life because they're lovely. Baths are good. We will see you next time, and also good wishes to Crichton Herald, who is not very well right now.
The sniffles.
Fine, Harold.
Oh, the sniffles, sniff.
Yeah, feel better.
For sniffles. I don't know. Bye.
Bye.
Should say snipples.
Sniffles.
Go wash yourself, Jebro.
I'll wash my arm in a glorious
smelly
waterfall.
body.